Chapter 61. What? Lin Mi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The Lin family was so powerful that everyone would turn pale at the mention of it. This young man from a small village actually dared to say that he could trample the Lin family under his feet. Wow, the whole temple was in an uproar. Was this person crazy? If you don't want to, then refuse. Let's not talk about whether you have the ability to do so. Why did you have to slander the Lin family and make such a huge enemy for your disciple? Kill him for me. Miss Lin was burning with anger. Her chest was heaving violently, and she finally erupted like a volcano. Kill him. She was not referring to Zhang Xiu, who was standing in front of her. In her eyes, even if Zhang Xiu slandered the Lin family, he was just an ant. The Lin family could crush him as they wished. Even if she killed Zhang Xiu, how much face could she get back? Zhang Xiu did refuse her. If she wanted to get back face, she would make Zhang Xiu regret and beg on the ground. Therefore, she pointed at the man in the ring. Defeat the man from Shannon village in one move. Yes. Uncle Fu answered. His feet kicked, and his whole body rose into the air. He stepped on the shoulder of the short-haired young man in front of him. His whole body was like a soaring eagle, crossing several meters in the air and diving into the field. At the same time he said faintly, "One move." His fist had already blasted out. It swept out like a storm. The man was shocked and quickly counterattacked. However, he only felt that the opponent's fist was too heavy to resist. It was as if thousands of pounds of gravity were pressing down on him. His whole body was limp on the ground like mud. The man's head was hanging to one side. His pupils were dilated, and blood was flowing from his mouth. He was motionless. Die. He's dead. Hiss. Everyone in the field sucked in a breath of cold air. Uncle Fu had already disappeared from the ring and returned to his previous position. Everything happened too fast and too suddenly. It was as if he had never moved. Fast as the wind, fast as lightning, like a ghost, killing people. When they looked at him again, they couldn't help but feel scared. The inside of the temple became silent. Lin Mi's pretty face was covered with a layer of poverty. She took out a business card, strode forward with her long legs, and arrived in front of Zhang Xiu. Her eyes were arrogant as she stuffed the business card into Zhang Xiu's pocket, and then left without looking back. Uncle Fu and his entourage smiled coldly at Zhang Xiu before following after him. After leaving the temple, the crew-cut young man asked, "Mimi, are we just going to let that brat go?" His words were filled with unwillingness. He would rather Uncle Fu had killed that brat on the spot. Lin Mi said confidently, "A country boy doesn't know what the Lin family means. But after seeing Uncle Fu make a move, he respects the Lin family like a god. He will come to the imperial capital. He will kneel at the door of the Lin family and beg for mercy." The young man suddenly understood. "So, you left him your name card?" Lin Mi smiled faintly. "So we're leaving just like that?" Lin Mi said, "Leave? The real show hasn't started yet. The underground forces of Zhang City haven't changed yet. I want to see who will become the king of Zhang City's underground." After Lin Mi and her entourage left, the temple was once again in an uproar. How can this be? Originally, Shannon had already lost. But now, the masters of Shanbei were killed. However, the people who did it were not to help Shannon, but because of Shannon. For a while, they quarreled. And they couldn't argue at all. After leaving the temple, Chu Qianqing said, "Young Master Xiu, why don't you agree with the young lady of the Lin family? Many people can't wait to join the Lin family." This included Chu Qianqing. That was the Lin clan, one of the 10 marshals. As the saying goes, the gate of the prime minister is a third-rank official. If he were to go to the Lin clan to be a guard or a driver, he felt that he would be able to score 99 points in his life. What the hell are you thinking? Chu Qianqing felt very regretful. Many times in life, there was only one decision. If you missed it, you might return to mediocrity in your life. He thought that Zhang Xiu missed it. Chen Shui also echoed, "Yes." She looked at Jiang Xiu curiously. In the past, she felt that Jiang Xiu was very ordinary, even a little timid and introverted. She didn't expect that after not seeing him for 3 years, not only had he transformed into a handsome young man, even the Lin family had extended an olive branch to him. What was more shocking was that he actually rejected it. Jiang Xiu said, "I have the ability to surpass the heavens. I can cut through all obstacles and rise all the way." Crazy. At this time, Jiang Xiu's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Tang Wenchong calling. He saw that Jiang Xiu had been away for so long. Even when it was time for dinner, he still hadn't come back. "Mr. Jiang, where are you? Do you want us to send someone to pick you up?" Jiang Xiu said, "No. I'll find a place to stay tonight." Beside Tang Wenchong was a force from Jiang City. Beside him was Daily Ai and another person from the military side courtyard. He was a lieutenant colonel from the Wolf Army. His name was Tang Tao. There were a few people beside him. They were the representatives of the Tang family this time. If someone challenged the Tang family, they would fight. "Okay, Mr. Jiang. Tomorrow, Mr. Jiang, please don't miss the gathering of Dao soldiers." Tang Tao, who was beside him, frowned when he saw the awe on Tang Wenchong's face unconsciously. Why did the descendants of the Tang family have to be so humble to a ruffian? "What, Mr. Jiang? He's so arrogant." Daily Ai said, "Brother Tao, that Mr. Jiang is amazing. I accidentally offended him." There were more than 300 brothers, and none of them could withstand a single blow. In less than 5 minutes, all of them were beaten to the ground. None of them could get up. "Ha ha ha!" Tang Tao laughed out loud. His eyes were full of contempt. The brothers beside him also shook their heads helplessly. Tang Tao patted Daily Ai's shoulder and said, "It's not that I look down on you, but with your mediocre skills, anyone who cultivates inner strength can easily defeat all of you." Daily Ai awkwardly squeezed out a bitter smile. This meant that they were all idiots. Tomorrow is the gathering of Dao soldiers for the All Dao Festival. Let me see what he can do for the Tang family after investing so much money in him. That night, Jiang Xiu naturally went to Aunt Xiang's house to spend the night. He had lived here for several years. No matter how shabby the house was, he would not dislike it. Moreover, there was the most beautiful place here. He could climb to the roof with a ladder. There was no place more artistic than sitting on the roof and looking at the moon. His phone vibrated. It was a message from Yi Bing. "Bastard Jiang Xiu, you openly skipped class for an entire day. You are too arrogant." Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. It was 9 o'clock, and the evening self-study session had just ended. He guessed that Yi Bing had been holding back her anger until now. "Jiang Xiu, I don't need to explain to you what I do." Yi Bing immediately replied, "How is it none of our business? You skipped class for no reason and affected the attendance of our class. The little red flag for attendance for this week is gone. It's all your fault. You really don't treat me as a class leader." Jiang Xiu, stupid. That's a trick for kids. Yi Bing, that's also an honor. Jiang Xiu, your honor is to strive to become my maid. Yi Bing, bah, you pervert. Jiang Xiu, think about it. My status is so noble that you can only have a chance if you become my concubine. You have no hope in this lifetime because you are not gentle enough. Yi Bing almost exploded on the other side of the phone. She was so angry that her face turned red. She kept slapping herself with her hands and then called Jiang Xiu. She exploded. "Jiang Xiu, you perverted bastard. Shameless bastard. Tonight, you are an incomplete life form. You are a moron with genetic mutation. You are a primary school student at the level of a toddler, a chimpanzee with a yin and yang imbalance. You are the strongest trash in human history. You pollute the air when you are alive and pollute when you are dead." Click. Miss Yi hung up the phone. Her whole body felt comfortable. Well, now it was the spiritual cultivation's turn to be stunned. Blue veins appeared on Jiang Xiu's forehead. "I officially inform you that you are disqualified from being my maid forever." "Forever? The next day, before dawn, the entire East Continent was in a festive mood. It's coming, it's coming. There was a heavenly Tao temple on top of a mountain in the East Continent. Not long after the sun came out, it was already full of people. It's Boss Zhong from Shay. Wan's Walin from Qingshui. Look, isn't that Master Lei from the new district? Chapter 62. The arrival of every ambitious and ruthless person would definitely cause an uproar. Some were excited, some were shocked, and some were resentful. No matter who it was, they were all overlords in their respective places. They were people who could shake the earth with a stomp of their feet. They could be said to be all-powerful. They must be here for the number one in Jiang City, right? This was also the consensus of everyone. The gathering of Tao soldiers had long changed. Even the locals of the East Continent did not believe that there was such a thing as God in this world. Only a few people would still pursue the illusory Tao soldiers. The young master of the Tang family, Tang Wenchong, Tang Tao, and the others also entered the temple. The Tang family was a typical example. They were only here to fight for supremacy, not to pursue the illusory door of immortals. Have you seen Mr. Jiang? Why hasn't he appeared yet? After waking up this morning, Jiang Xiu's phone could not be reached. According to speculation, it should be out of battery. In fact, it was indeed so. Jiang Xiu did not bring a charger, and his phone was old. Soon, it ran out of battery. Why did the Tang family only send a few small fries this time? He. The person who spoke was Boss Zhong of Shay. He shouted at the Tang family, "These people are not enough to fill the gaps between my teeth." Everyone said that after old Master Tang got old, the Tang family went into decline. It seems that people were right. The Tang family frowned. What did you say? Dalai, you used to have the protection of the Tang family. Now, the Tang family can't even protect themselves. Let's see what you can do today. Boss Zhong nodded to a short and strong middle-aged man beside him. He suddenly rushed out of the crowd and leaped into the air. His entire body was like a breeze, sweeping over the heads of countless people. He crossed the crowd and landed in the field. Dalai's expression changed drastically. Shay was close to the new city area and there was constant friction between the two sides. They had long formed a life-and-death feud. In the past, no one dared to challenge the Tang family because the Tang family had Grandmaster Chu Tiannan. But now, they had no one to rely on. A man beside Tang Tao said, "I'll do it." Zhan Lang Qi, are you confident? Zhan Lang Qi's gaze swept over his opponent. He cultivates the light body technique together with the eagle claw technique. It's just a small Dao. As long as he doesn't use the ancient eagle claw and cultivates both inside and outside, I can defeat him. After saying that, he suddenly stomped the ground and shot out like an arrow. In an instant, the two of them exchanged blows, throwing punches and kicks. Before everyone had arrived, they had already started. It was really exciting. Tang Tao's heart sank after watching only one round. His opponent was a master of the eagle claw. Wherever his claws passed, there was a faint cold light. This was the sign of inner strength bursting out. The peak of inner strength was very close to transforming strength. His strength was enough to crush rocks easily. The people outside were still walking in one after another. It's the Yi clan. Yi Ilyang is here. Yi Ilyang had a great reputation. He was the most famous of the middle-aged generation in Jiang district. On the surface, he was the chairman of a group with billions of assets. In reality, he was a descendant of the Yi family. More than 10 years ago, he had established a firm foothold in Jiang City. Later, he suddenly left Jiang City and made a comeback many years later. Shay is already fighting with the Tang family. Yi Ilyang shook his head and said, "Today, a real enemy is coming, but they are still fighting here." On the side, Elder Lin also looked serious. Mimi is right. It seems that there is a good show to watch. A girl wearing a cap walked in, followed by a group of people. It was Lin Mi, the eldest daughter of the Lin family. She had come to Dongzhou State to watch this show. Jiang City is a mixed bag of good and bad people. In addition, the economy has been developing rapidly in recent years. Many people have their eyes on this place. Many big forces have also infiltrated here. Today will be very exciting. Eldest miss, look. Is it that guy? In the distance, Jiang Xiu, Chu Qianqing, Danian, Chen Shui, Xiao Min, and the others were also watching the show in the crowd. From time to time, they would help the village's snack shop sell some things. Lin Mi smiled contemptuously. A street vendor. He would understand what he desired and needed. Lin Mi could already see that Jiang Xiu was faintly dissociated from his companions because he did not participate in the sales. More of his attention was focused on the field. Jiang Xiu said faintly, 37 moves, defeated. Then, he lost interest in watching. That person looks a bit like Bao Lingyun and Pei Shui. Jiang Xiu saw two familiar faces. Xiao Min said with an ugly expression, ignore them. Two scumbags. Bao Lingyun and Pei Shui also saw them and swaggered over. Bao Lingyun's lips curled up into a smug smile. Setting up a street stall, huh? Little Min, Chen Shui, I say, what can you guys do with these two little shrimps? If you follow me, I guarantee you'll eat and drink well. He reached out and pulled a girl who was wearing sexy and revealing clothes and pulled out her bag. Chanel, 30,000 for one. The girl was also young. She wore heavy makeup and was very proud. 30,000. The surrounding people's eyes widened when they heard this. Their annual expenses were only 3,000. 30,000 was enough for them to use for 10 years, but they only bought one bag. They were simply filthy rich. We don't care. Although their mouths were resolute, the two girls' eyes dimmed. This was a normal psychological gap. The other party casually spent 30,000 to buy luxury goods, but they had to worry about 30 or 300. What's more, they were not worse than anyone else. Bao Lingyun saw Jiang Xiu and said in surprise, Yo, isn't this? Who's that? What's the name of the one who left the city to study? Jiang Xiu said indifferently, Jiang Xiu. I remember. The trash who was beaten into a pile of shit by me. At that time, Jiang Xiu was very small. When he met a kid who grew up earlier than him, was bigger than him, and fought all day, he had no strength to fight back. Later, he was beaten up by Danian and Chu Qianqing. The scar on his face was left at that time. As a result, hatred was formed. In Jiang Xiu's group, there was a girl named Zi Ran. Jiang Xiu remembered that she was quite delicate, and Bao Lingyun took a fancy to her. One day, they did not leave together. The girl was blocked in the school alone. At that time, she was still in junior high school. As a result, the girl slipped and fell from the second floor of the school and died. From then on, the hatred became deeper. It could be said that they were incompatible like fire and water. Chu Qianqing said angrily, Enough, Bao Lingyun. Who cares about your stinky money? You don't care? Bao Lingyun chuckled and took out a stack of money. Without saying anything, he threw 1,000 yuan on the ground. Then, he hugged his girl and left with his brothers. The 1,000 yuan was thrown on the ground as if he was rewarding a beggar. Pei Shui, let's go. Jiang Xiu was very surprised. Pei Shui used to be their best friend. He did not expect that he would become their enemy. Chu Qianqing said, Traitor. Pei Shui stopped and said with a disdainful smile, Don't be silly. If I follow Brother Yun, I will have money and women. If I follow you, will I stay in a poor ditch and be poor for the rest of my life? They were like generals who had won a battle and left proudly. They went to boss She Zhong's camp. Chu Qianqing said angrily, Isn't it just following a boss and earning some money? What are you so arrogant for? He was even more angry in his heart. Jiang Xiu really should not have rejected the Lin family. He followed the boss of a county and was awe-inspiring. He earned a lot of money and was the boss. He suppressed them until they could not raise their heads. Not to mention the Lin family, which was one of the top families in China. It was such a pity. Danian said, "This kid has been eyeing Little Min recently. He goes to Little Min's barbecue shop every 2 to 3 days. He wants to completely destroy Danian and me." Chu Qianqing's face turned green. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly and said, "It's okay. After today, he will definitely respect me like a god." Bang! Zhong Lang Qi screamed. His chest was fiercely clawed. His entire body, including his clothes and flesh, had several claw marks. His entire body spun in the air like a fried dough twist and fell heavily to the ground. At this time, people could see clearly that there were 5 deep holes in his chest. Blood was constantly gushing out from them. This claw had penetrated more than 3 centimeters into his flesh. "I admit defeat." His face was pale. If he did not admit defeat, he would definitely die if he was hit again. Ha ha ha, is the Tang family all trash? They can't even take a beating. Boss She Zhong was extremely proud. Daily Eye, the Tang family can't protect you this time. Daily Eye's territory in the new city district will belong to me from now on. Daily Eye's face was ashen. He looked at Tang Wenchong and Tang Tao. He was the spokesperson of the Lei family in the underworld. On the surface, he was very powerful, but in reality, he had to listen to the Tang family. Those assets were his in name, but the real owner was the Tang family. The people present were in an uproar. The entertainment city in the new city district and the surrounding industries. How much money would that be? What about that Jiang guy? Tang Tao checked the injuries of his subordinates and suppressed the anger in his heart. He ate my Tang family's flowers. My Tang family borrowed the power of the Tang family. At this juncture, he disappeared. Chapter 63. Tang Wenchong frowned inwardly and said, "Uncle Tao, Grandpa said that a powerhouse like Mr. Jiang must be treated with full respect and reverence. We must not neglect him in the slightest, let alone offend him with words. Don't worry. Since Mr. Jiang promised to come back, he'll definitely come. Mr. Jiang is a man of his word. He probably hasn't found us yet." Tang Tao snorted and said, "He better be useful. Otherwise, don't blame the Tang family for being hostile." He didn't take Tang Wenchong's words seriously. In his eyes, how capable could a young man be? There was a saying in the underground world of the Dark Clan that one punch could defeat 10,000 punches. If you lost a battle, there would be more people coming to step on you. "I want to fight the Tang family. I want to fight the Tang family too." Many families mentioned that they wanted to fight the Tang family. Tang Tao's subordinates went up one after another. Although they were all elite warriors, they were all defeated by an internal force master. "I want to fight the Tang family too. They used to be the overlord of Jiangqing, but now they had become a rat that everyone wanted to beat up. The prestige that they had accumulated over the years was all gone in one move. Wenchong, when is that *T Mr. Jiang coming? He didn't run away, right?" The crowd cheered louder and louder. "No, no." Beside Yiliang, Elder Lin frowned and shook his head. "Why do you say that, Elder Lin?" Elder Lin said, "The Tang family's strength is not limited to this. Even if Chu Tiannan was killed, they still have connections with the military. It's not impossible for them to hire another master. According to Tang Jinshan's character, he won't give up so easily. Moreover, they didn't even send an internal force master. This is too strange." Hearing Elder Lin's words, Yi Liang also felt strange. Among the Lin family members who were watching the battle, the short-haired young man couldn't help but say, "After coming to Jiangqing, I heard that Tang Jinshan is the strongest underground force. Now it seems that he's just fishing for fame." They were beaten to the point that they couldn't fight back. Uncle Fu nodded and said, "The ones representing the Tang family are all soldiers from the military. Furthermore, they haven't cultivated any internal strength, so they aren't a match for internal strength masters. As far as I know, the Tang family has a close relationship with Chu Tiannan, the great grandmaster. Why didn't he come? Moreover, He should have his own internal strength experts. Why is he in such dire straits? Something's wrong. Lin Mi asked in confusion, Uncle Fu, what's wrong? Fu Bo just frowned and shook his head. He didn't know exactly what was wrong. It was just his intuition. However, at this moment, Elder Lin and Uncle Fu's eyes suddenly lit up at the same time. They both thought of a possibility at the same time. Unless the Tang family's experts are already here, but they haven't made a move yet. In the arena, it seemed like there was no way to lose. Tang Tao said, Wen Cheng, it's all your fault. If you hadn't said so confidently that you had already invited an expert and would definitely win, I would have invited our leader over. Now that the Tang family has lost like this, let's see how you explain it to grandfather. Cold sweat trickled down Tang Wanzong's forehead. He gritted his teeth and rushed to the stage. Mr. Jiang, please make a move. Mr. Jiang, please make a move. Hearing that Tang Wanzong had invited someone, Elder Lin and Uncle Fu were even more certain of their speculation. The Tang family's experts had already arrived, but they hadn't made a move yet. They couldn't help but look forward to it. At the same time, disdain flashed through their eyes. What kind of expert was so arrogant? Zhang Xiu, who was helping the village sell things, couldn't help but look up when he heard this. He saw Tang Wanzong excitedly shouting at the square platform on the stage. Mr. Jiang, please make a move. He shouted 5 or 6 times, but no one responded. Tang Wanzong's heart sank. His legs were trembling, and his heart was already filled with despair. Could it be, as Uncle Tao said, that Zhang Xiu had really escaped? A minute passed, and still no one responded. Daley's face turned pale when he saw this. Zhang Xiu was his only hope now. If Zhang Xiu couldn't come out of the Herculean King Kuanglan, then he, Daley, would be a stray dog in the future. He immediately rushed forward without hesitation and shouted, Mr. Jiang, please make your move. Hundreds of his brothers followed behind him and shouted as well. Mr. Jiang, please make a move. 2 minutes passed. Despite their shocking shouts, the so-called Mr. Jiang still didn't appear. Just as the Tang family was in despair and the scene was roaring with laughter, a voice slowly sounded. You called me? In an instant, everyone's eyes turned to Zhang Xiu. Among them was a young man who was pushing a vending cart with fruit shells on it. Are you crazy? Chu Qianqing, who was on the side, shouted in fright. Didn't he see the occasion? He wouldn't be scared to death. Bao Lingyun and Pei Shuai, who were in the line of Shui Zhong's boss, were amused when they saw that it was Zhang Xiu. Does this kid think that the other party is calling for food? He's calling for Mr. Jiang. Why are you responding? You must be crazy about doing business. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. Lin Mi also saw him. It was him, the guy who rejected her yesterday and was shocked by her. What kind of trouble did he come up with again? He was really not afraid of death. Didn't he see that the ambitious and ruthless people on the ground were in a killing frenzy? Didn't he see that 5 or 6 people from the Tang family had already died? Was this the place for him to joke? She secretly shook her head and rejoiced. Originally, she thought that Zhang Xiu was loyal and willing to sacrifice himself for others. Now, she saw that he was simply a brainless hothead. Fortunately, he rejected her. Otherwise, she would have found an unpresentable person for the family. The people on the side saw him as a scourge and stepped aside for fear of being implicated. On the occasion yesterday, Chu Qianqing and Chen Shui still had the courage to stop Zhang Xiu. But today, they were scared out of their wits. They saw Zhang Xiu let go of the cart and then walk to the center of the field unhurriedly. Tang Wencheng also saw it. He saw Zhang Xiu. At this moment, his eyes were red, and he had an urge to cry. It was really a mixture of feelings. He was already desperate just now, but Zhang Xiu once again descended from the sky. He was coming, he was coming. Mr. Jiang, please make a move. This was almost a roar. It was really a roar, and his voice was hoarse. Mr. Jiang, please make a move. Daley's subordinates were full of momentum. They naturally recognized that the person in front of them was Mr. Jiang, whom they had been waiting for. The crowd retreated like a receding tide, opening up a narrow path for them. There was also a kind person who reminded him, "Young man, his name is Mr. Jiang, not you. Go back quickly. Do you want to die?" In everyone's impression, Mr. Jiang, whom the Tang family was looking forward to, must be a top powerhouse. To cultivate martial arts to that level, he must be at least 40 or 50 years old. How could he be such a young teenager? Zhang Xiu smiled faintly. He walked step by step, neither hurried nor slow. He was indifferent to everyone's gaze. Yi Ilyang also saw him and involuntarily stood up. "It's that kid. What is he doing here? Is he crazy? Could it be that this kid wants to prove himself in front of me for Bing Bing? Although his courage is commendable, he's too brainless. Is this something you can come to? Can you deal with the opponent on the field?" Seeing Zhang Xiu walk over, Tang Wencheng was even more excited. "Mr. Jiang, you're finally here." He stared at Zhang Xiu as if he was looking at the registration of a king. "Mr. Jiang, please make your move." At this time, Zhang Xiu had already walked to the center of the stage. Tang Wencheng was talking to him. Wow! There was an uproar in the field. Everyone was shocked. Was he really Mr. Jiang? Young Master Tang was really talking to him? The most shocked people were Zhang Xiu's friends, Chu Chenqing, Danian, Chen Shui, and Xiaomin. Zhang Xiu grew up with them. They hadn't seen him for only 3 years. How could he become Mr. Jiang? Was there really no mistake? The smile on Bao Lingyun's face slowly froze. How could it be? How could he become Mr. Jiang? Zhang Xiu's eyes were indifferent. There were all kinds of reactions in the field. He didn't come here to stand up for the Tang family. He came here for the Taoist soldiers to gather and the immortals to open the door. The only thing that could really move Zhang Xiu was the temptation of increasing his strength. Tang Tao snorted coldly and walked toward Zhang Xiu with an angry face. "You're Mr. Jiang. Where have you been? Didn't you see that so many of my Tang brothers died?" His tone was very harsh, almost accusing. "Why did you only come out now?" He seemed to mean that the deaths of his Tang family were all caused by Zhang Xiu. Tang Wencheng was so shocked that his eyes almost fell out. But it was too late to stop him. Bang! Suddenly, lightning exploded inside the heavenly Dao temple. Chapter 64. He thought that he could order Zhang Xiu around just because he spent hundreds of millions to buy a street for Zhang Xiu. However, Zhang Xiu used his actions to tell him that he was wrong. Boom! There seemed to be a thunderous explosion in the Heaven Taoist temple. A faint smoke exploded from his hand. The smoke burst and dispersed. In an instant, it swept out violently like a gust of wind. Tang Wencheng and Dalai, who were standing in front of Zhang Xiu, were directly blown back by this force. They still couldn't stand and sat on the ground. They were directly blown 2 or 3 meters away. The people who were a little further away couldn't even open their eyes because of the gust of wind. Even the windows were blown away. The sound was so sharp that it hurt their eardrums. At this moment, time and space seemed to be stretched infinitely. Everything became so slow as if it had stopped. When everything stopped, Tang Tao was directly slapped in the face by Zhang Xiu. His whole body flew out horizontally like a kite with a broken string. He flew more than 10 meters horizontally, hit the entrance door, and fell down. Then, he rolled all the way down the stairs. At this moment, the gust of wind that seemed to have stopped finally exploded. The momentum was so strong that it was really like a cannonball landing. The whole Heaven Taoist temple was blown away. Scraps of paper on the ground flew everywhere, and the house was on the verge of collapse. It exploded, it completely exploded. The whole place was silent, dead silent. It wasn't scary. Zhang Xiu just swung his hand. Tang Wencheng was stunned. He only heard from Tang Jinshan that Zhang Xiu was very strong. He also knew that Zhang Xiu could control the thunder in Baden that day. However, He never thought that Jiang Xiu could be so strong. As for Elder Lin, Uncle Fu, and other top masters who claimed to be first class were extremely shocked. They were all wondering what level Jiang Xiu's martial arts cultivation had reached. Inner force, transcendent state, or demigod. They didn't dare to imagine. It was hard to imagine. Lin Mi's eyes were wide open. She was really shocked. She didn't expect him to be so strong. As for Boss Zhong, Wan Zuolin, and of course, Jiang Xiu's childhood friends, they were the most shocked. They were dumbfounded, and their mouths were wide open for a long time. Chu Qianqing, Danian, Xiao Min, and Chen Shui couldn't believe that Jiang Xiu, who grew up with them, could be so powerful with a casual wave of his hand. Is this still the Jiang Xiu we know? You dare to speak rudely to me? Only then did the people present realize that Jiang Xiu's target was Tang Tao of the Tang family, and he was invited by the Tang family. At this point, everyone knew that his relationship with the Tang family was definitely not that of a subordinate. He was more like a consecrator invited by the Tang family, or even not a consecrator. It was more likely that the Tang family had asked him to help. Tang Wanzong's face was pale, and he was sweating. Thank you, Mr. Jiang, for teaching him a lesson. He was also very angry. He had repeatedly told Tang Tao to be respectful to Mr. Jiang and not offend Mr. Jiang. Well, not only did Tang Tao not listen, but he also rudely pushed the responsibility of the Tang family's defeat to Jiang Xiu. He even spoke rudely to Jiang Xiu. If this wasn't asking for trouble, what was? The Tang family will definitely punish Mr. Jiang severely, but he is my elder after all. Tang Wanzong has no right to punish him. I have to ask my grandfather to make the decision. Jiang Xiu snorted coldly. He spared Tang Tao's life because he wanted the Tang family to give him an explanation. His eyes turned and fell on Bao Lingyun and Pei Shui. The latter two's faces turned pale. Just a moment ago, when Jiang Xiu went on the stage, they slandered Jiang Xiu in front of Boss Zhong, saying that he was just a country bumpkin in the village, and how he was bullied by them when he was young, and how he was beaten by them until he knelt and begged for mercy. I want you. He pointed his finger at Boss Zhong. As for why he chose him, it was self-evident. Master Zhong. Boss Zhong signaled him to go on the stage. He was the one who used the eagle claw skill. Master Zhang's resolute face was a little pale. The power that Jiang Xiu showed just now was not something that he could resist. However, there was no such thing as admitting defeat in the gathering of Taoist soldiers. He had to go on the stage. It was good that he could survive. Most of the time, he had to die on the stage alone. I'm afraid of you, so what? Once again, he performed the lightness skill. His whole body rose into the air and pounced on the stage like an eagle. He stretched out his eagle claw and attacked Jiang Xiu. Humph. Jiang Xiu actually didn't understand martial arts. The martial arts here were different from the immortal martial arts on the immortal martial continent. It was pure martial arts because it was a low-level skill. Why was it called low-level? In some low-level places like Earth, no matter how high one's martial arts cultivation was, even if one had reached the Great Grandmaster realm or even the Demigod realm, if one encountered a 1,000-year-old demoness, it was not as effective as a minor repairs specialist's broken talisman. The result was that one would be instantly sucked dry. Therefore, what Jiang Xiu learned was immortal martial arts. It was driven by spells, but now he was using divine force as the driving force. That was the case with the sleeve just now. Boom! The sound of thunder rang out again in the teaching hall. Jiang Xiu's eyes were cold. He casually struck out with his palm. Under the horrified eyes of the crowd, white smoke gushed out. With a bang, it heavily hit Master Zhang's body. He was 2 to 3 meters away, but it was as if he was hit by a 10-ton truck. He was directly sent flying. He was sent flying in the same way that he flew on the stage. He had already been killed in the void. When he fell to the ground, he was already dead. Hiss! At this moment, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at Jiang Xiu as if they were looking at a demon. What kind of strength was this? Everyone present felt a chill down their spine. At this moment, Tang Wenchong finally saw how terrifying Jiang Xiu was. He was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. Boss Zhong's face was ashen. Bao Lingyun and Pei Shui were so scared that their legs went soft and they couldn't even stand. Jiang Xiu's childhood friend's eyes were wide open and a warm current was surging in his heart. Young Master Xiu was too fierce. He was so excited that he almost burst into tears. They finally understood why Jiang Xiu said that he would make those two bastards respect him as if he was a god. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was a god who dominated their life and death. After killing them, Jiang Xiu turned around and looked at Yi Ilyang. Yi Ilyang frowned and looked at Jiang Xiu with vigilance and warning. He sneered in his heart, "Boy, do you want to challenge me?" Jiang Xiu's strength was a little beyond his imagination. He thought that Jiang Xiu was only good at fighting and was at the early stage of internal force at most. Now it seemed that this boy might be at the level of peak strength. "I want you." He pointed his finger at Yi Ilyang. He stood up with a pale face and spat out two words fiercely, "You're courting death." Elder Lin. Elder Lin was the biggest support from the Yi family. His original intention was to protect his safety. He wouldn't be like more than 10 years ago when he had to go to Tang Zhenshan for help after encountering a master like Lin Zhenbei. In the end, he had to leave Zhongqing. Lin Zhenbei made a comeback and Tang Zhenshan lost his arm. Yi Ilyang had the ambition to dominate the underworld of Jiangzhou. Originally, he wanted to save Elder Lin to deal with Lin Zhenbei. He wanted to step on Lin Zhenbei's body and reach the top of Zhongqing. He didn't expect that Elder Lin would make a move in advance. Although he would be a little passive if he exposed his strength, he didn't think it would affect the outcome. "Okay." Elder Lin's tone was very calm. Then, he slowly walked forward. He really didn't expect that Jiang Xiu, who he regarded as an ignorant madman in the villa area, would stand in front of him and become his opponent. It's not bad to have such a cultivation at such a young age. Elder Lin was very arrogant. It's a pity that you challenged the wrong person. Boom. Elder Lin suddenly stomped his foot. Qi energy burst out from all over his body. It was as if it was real. Internal force release. Sky silk rain. The people below couldn't stay calm anymore. They couldn't recognize Jiang Xiu's moves, but they knew all about Elder Lin's moves. Oh my God, a transcendent master. Jiang Xiu shook his head secretly. Child's play. Forget it. I'll show you what real martial arts are today. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hands slightly. His palms moved forward and his fingers changed rapidly. One after another, Dharma seals were deduced. He was using the immortal martial arts. Heart-shaking seal, demonic origin seal, roaring sky explosion, calling thunder shock, Li Yuan change. When his immortal martial Dharma seals were deduced, it contained hundreds of seals. One could block the first seal, but not the second seal. One could block the second seal, but not the third seal. Spiritual cultivation ultimate technique. Exploding seal wheel. Chapter 65. Linmi couldn't help but ask, "Uncle Fu, is the sky silk rain that powerful?" Uncle Fu let out a wry smile and said, "It is more than powerful. Sky silkworm silk is known as the thinnest and toughest silk thread. Even the most advanced technology is unable to create a mixed silk thread thinner than sky silkworm silk. Even swords and sabers cannot cut it. However, Qi silk, which is condensed from air currents, can directly break the sky silkworm silk. One can imagine how terrifying the sky silkworm silk rain is. Legend has it that the sky silk rain could turn a 1-meter square marble into dust." Lin Mi's eyes widened in surprise. "That is so powerful." Uncle Fu nodded with a serious face. It was rare to see such a powerful fighter. "Looks like that arrogant kid is dead meat." Lin Mi felt a burst of joy in her heart. Just now, when Jiang Xiu made his move, she had a feeling of being retaliated against, which made her very unhappy. If Jiang Xiu was really an arrogant and ignorant country boy, she could still accept his rejection of the Lin clan even though she was angry. After all, he didn't know how strong you were, so he naturally wouldn't respect you. However, Zhang Xiu wasn't weak, so he naturally wouldn't be an ignorant country boy. Of course, he knew what kind of existence the Lin clan was. Under such circumstances, rejecting the Lin clan and looking down on them was a true blasphemy. It is too easy for him to die like this. Those who offended the Lin family never had a good ending. The prestige of a wealthy family was inviolable. It is a worthy death to die under the sky silk rain. The heavenly silk rain was one of the few top-tier martial arts techniques. In order to master it successfully, one had to reach the transcendent grandmaster level. Not only did one have to release the internal force externally, one also had to be able to control the release of the internal force. It would take at least 60 years to master such a technique. How many 60 years was a person's lifespan? In Uncle Fu's opinion, it was a kind of glory to let a top expert display his trump card. However, he believed that Zhang Xiu was not worthy of this kind of glory. Shoo! Shoo! The sky was filled with fine drizzles that seemed to be intermittent. Not only were they unpredictable, but when they were swung, they carried an incomparably terrifying force that could easily pierce through and cut apart reinforced steel plates. It is Lin Jinnan. Someone finally recognized Senior Lin after he made his move. Gasp! Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Demigod Lin Jinnan? No one was able to remain calm. Everyone thought that Zhang Xiu was unstoppable after he killed so many people. However, they didn't expect that Yi Ilyang had a demigod as his backup. No one present was optimistic about Zhang Xiu anymore. Lin Jinnan's reputation was too great. Chu Tiannan's reputation in Zhongnan was resounding enough. Everyone looked up to him. Back then, Tang Zhenshan had to drive up the mountain in the heavy rain to invite him out. However, Chu Tiannan was like a child in front of Lin Jinnan. A man who could become a demigod was simply an existence from another world. Sooner or later, he would look down on all living beings. However, when Zhang Xiu finished unsealing the seal, his right palm pushed out with a strange seal technique, his palm facing outwards. Many people shook their heads. His hand could be considered crippled. It could even penetrate a boulder, let alone a palm of flesh. However, the densely packed threads that could penetrate a boulder were broken inch by the translucent white light in front of the palm before they could touch it. How is this possible? Senior Lin's expression changed. His heavenly silk rain was condensed with extremely pure inner force. It could even penetrate a diamond. How could it be broken by a pair of palms? You call this a martial art technique? Zhang Xiu shook his head. He was very disappointed. His opponent was too weak to show his strength. Sigh. You don't even know what a martial art technique is. Boom. He pushed out his palm. What he did just now was just his opening move. As he pushed out the seal, the space covered by the seal seemed to be filled with the roar of cannons, the sound of thunder and lightning, the whistling of wind, the crying of ghosts, and the tearing of space. It was a domineering display of all kinds of power. You're defeated. This seal was like a seal that overturned the sky. It was as heavy as a mountain. It was as if heaven and earth had been turned upside down. He was powerful to the extreme, and extremely abnormal. How is this possible? Lin Jinnan was horrified. Under this power, he felt a powerful and unparalleled heavenly might. It was as if he was facing a landslide or a tsunami. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Lin Jinnan seemed to have opened a door, and the inside of the room exploded. His whole body flew out. While he was still in the air, the two-story building of the Heavenly Tao Arena 20 meters behind him was smashed into pieces by the shockwave. In the middle of the building, there was a hollow in the shape of a fingerprint. What kind of martial art technique is this? Uncle Fu, Yi Ilyang, Lin Mi, and the others' eyes almost popped out. They couldn't be scared to death. Was this a movie? At this time, Lin Jinnan was screaming in his heart. This kind of power was beyond the limit of martial arts. This young man was so powerful. Was he going to die? Bang! He fell heavily to the ground and vomited blood. Elder Lin, Yi Ilyong came to his senses and screamed. Elder Lin might be. They didn't dare to think about it. That was the treasure of the Yi family. Nothing must happen to him. Yi Ilyong rushed over and helped Lin Jinan up from the ground. His face was full of grief. Elder Lin's face was pale, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. He said with difficulty, "His heart meridian is not broken. At his level, as long as his heart meridian was not broken, he would not die." Hearing this, Yi Ilyong finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Do you know why I spared his dog life?" Zhang Xiu's voice drifted over faintly. It was as if what he had just done was just a trivial matter. Dog life. It was ear-piercing, but now it was not ear-piercing at all. Even the house 20 meters behind him had a 2-story handprint on it, not to mention Elder Lin's heart meridian. He must have been merciful. Yi Ilyong looked at Zhang Xiu in confusion. Zhang Xiu said, "This sovereign will also spare your dog life. This is a gift from this sovereign. If you want to thank this sovereign, then thank your daughter for lending this sovereign 1,800 yuan at school. It was your daughter who saved you." Yi Ilyong's entire body shook violently, and his complexion alternated between green and white. Just a few days ago, Zhang Xiu had shamelessly boasted in front of him that he was not worthy of his daughter. Now, if it were not for this layer of relationship, he would have died here. At this moment, not only was the pride in his heart completely shattered by Zhang Xiu, he was even trampled on the ground with his feet. This counterattack was not only sharp, but also fatal. But he had to admit that Elder Lin was defeated. He, Yi Ilyong, had no chance of winning against him. Zhang Xiu's strength made it difficult for him to resist. He could only endure this humiliation. At this moment, everyone present was completely stunned. Looking at the hollowed-out house, they felt like they were dreaming. Could a person destroy a house like this? Especially Chu Qianqing, Danian, and a few other childhood friends. They were completely petrified. This was done by Zhang Xiu? It was too shocking. Uncle Fu, Lin Mi, and the others looked at the house, and their pupils couldn't help but widen. They were undoubtedly shocked. Those who didn't know the business only felt shocked, but those who really knew the business understood how terrifying this was. Only a demigod would be able to do something like this. This person was actually a demigod. Which of the demigods wasn't a white-haired old man? The youngest demigod was already more than 50 years old, but this person in front of him was only in his teens. Oh my God, if he was given another 10 or 20 years, how much would he grow to? No wonder he said he would go to the Lin family and said that when he stepped into the Lin family would bow to him. No wonder he was so arrogant. Suddenly, a trace of fear flashed in the eyes of Lin Mi, Uncle Fu, and the others. A terrifying thought appeared in their minds. This person was so ruthless and vengeful. Since he saw accepting him into the Lin family as a humiliation, then he would definitely take revenge. Suddenly, the surrounding air seemed to drop by 5 or 6 degrees, and a chill swept through everyone. Zhang Xiu retracted his gaze and looked at them with a cold gaze. Once again, he slowly raised his finger. His finger was pointed at Uncle Fu, who was beside Lin Mi. Just yesterday, he killed in front of Zhang Xiu to intimidate him. Uncle Fu's face suddenly turned pale. A person suspected to be a demigod. Although Uncle Fu thought he was extraordinary, with Lin Jinan in front of him, he didn't have any confidence. There was a glimmer of hope in his heart that he wouldn't be pointed at. But Zhang Xiu's voice sounded like a curse. "I want you." Chapter 66. Zhang Xiu's finger pointed at Uncle Fu. As expected, it still landed on their heads in the end. The faces of the people from the Lin family were extremely ugly. They were here to watch the fun, not to participate in the gathering of Tao soldiers. Logically speaking, they could refuse. However, if the dignified Lin family refused the challenge of a mountain boy, it would be a great loss of face. How could the Lin family allow such a thing to happen? Lin Mi's pretty face turned pale. "Kid, you have to think carefully. Those who go against the Lin family will never have a good ending. Zhang Xiu glanced at her. Those who go against me will die without a complete corpse. Today, whether he goes on the stage or not, I want him to die here. No one doubted his determination. The outcome of those who went against him previously proved that he was a man of his words. The Lin family's group was shocked. At this point, what else was there to say? The Lin family couldn't possibly kneel and beg for mercy. Uncle Fu laughed. This mountain kid thinks he's great just because he killed a few people? A figure soared into the sky and leaped a few meters high. Then, he tapped on the stone lion with the tip of his foot, creating a dent. His aura was soaring, and his eyes were like a hungry wolf. Those who insult the Lin family, die. Uncle Fu's face was ferocious, and his eyes were bloodshot. He crossed his hands, and energy poured into his arms and reached his palms. The edges of his palms were as sharp as knives. Suddenly, the knife aura was fierce, and his entire body went from extreme movement to extreme stillness. Knife Dao Sect. The power of his heartbeat, the power of his blood flowing, and the power of his bones and muscles were all gathered in his hand. At this moment, it was as if his entire body was still, and only the hand knife fell. When the knife fell, it was as if it could even split space into two halves. Whoosh! The energy pushed over as if it was solid. The knife whistled. His knife had vaguely touched the level of supernatural power. He was almost half a step into the demigod realm. The people present exclaimed, "Another demigod substitute. Kill him." When they saw Zhang Xiu's strength, the Lin family's group completely lost their confidence. However, at this moment, after seeing Uncle Fu's strength, they were full of confidence again. Uncle Fu was a demigod substitute. However, they had completely forgotten that the demigod substitute just now was killed in one move. Die. Zhang Xiu's eyes flashed coldly as he glanced over. With a wave of his right hand, he swatted it away as if he was swatting a fly. Boom! This time, he didn't make a big fuss like before. He had already figured out the extent of the so-called demigod substitute's power. He didn't even need to use his immortal martial arts. A power similar to the might of the heavens burst out, crushing the ground, flagpoles, stone statues. Everything along the way to Uncle Fu, who was more than 20 to 30 meters away, was no different from the stone chips on the ground. His whole body was like a piece of paper, directly smashed into fine powder. Not even dregs were left. Silence. A deathly silence. It was as if the wind had stopped. Everyone present was stunned. They were truly stunned. They were completely stunned. Their minds were completely blank. Is he still human? This kind of power that could turn people into dregs with a wave of his hand made everyone present tremble with fear that came from the depths of their souls. Their legs trembled, and they couldn't help but want to kneel down and kowtow, as if they were kowtowing to a god. This, Yi Liang, Uncle Fu, Lin Mi, and the others were all people who had seen true powerhouses. Even a demigod wasn't this terrifying. In fact, Zhang Xiu's power didn't belong to a human. That was the power of a god. Although he hadn't fully awakened and only had 3 awakened mysteries, it was still the power of a demigod. The power of a demigod was not something a human could imagine. It was like a hot weapon against a cold weapon. It was a complete suppression. Zhang Xiu's eyes swept over Lin Mi and said, "Killing people to intimidate this sovereign? Ignorant and laughable. Now that this sovereign has killed your servant, what can your Lin family do to me?" Lin Mi's face was frighteningly pale. She was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. How could Lin Mi not be angry when her loyal servant was killed and she was humiliated like this? However, she was even more afraid. This person's strength was truly unimaginable. At this moment, it was impossible for her to not feel regret. If she hadn't offended the person in front of her, Uncle Fu wouldn't have died, she wouldn't have been humiliated, and she wouldn't have provoked such a powerful enemy. "You have nothing to say?" Lin Mi and her remaining companions didn't dare to say a word. Thinking back to when they met him yesterday, they were still so domineering. Now, they were like stray dogs, not daring to make a sound. If you have nothing to say, then get out of this, sovereign. Lin Mi was the dignified eldest daughter of the Lin family. When had she ever been humiliated like this? She was so angry that she wanted to curse back. However, when she met Jiang Xiu's indifferent eyes, which were like those of a bodhisattva in a temple, her heart suddenly became cold. She no longer had any courage and said, "Let's go." Humph. After his parents passed away, Jiang Xiu entered the capital and was humiliated. If it weren't for the fact that his parents were still alive in this life and he couldn't grasp his mother's attitude, he definitely wouldn't have let Lin Mi leave here alive. When Lin Mi walked out of the temple, she was about to explode with anger. The Lin family's face in the East Continent was completely lost. She didn't even dare to explain Uncle Fu's death to her family. She asked, "By the way, what was that person's name?" The short-haired young man beside her said, "I think his name was Mr. Jiang." Along the way, a man was climbing up the stairs angrily. He was seriously injured. His clothes were tattered, and blood was flowing. It was Tang Tao, who had just been sent flying by Jiang Xiu. "I'm going to kill you, Lin Mi cursed in her heart. Idiot. She strode down the mountain. At this moment, the atmosphere in the temple was extremely tense. Because Jiang Xiu was going to pick the next person. With his abnormal cultivation, whoever he picked would die. Under such circumstances, who wouldn't be afraid? They all prayed in their hearts for the protection of the Bodhisattva. Tang Wencheng, on the other hand, was very excited. Powerful, too powerful. The Tang family won back all the face they had lost. Not only did they win it back, but they also won it in a big way. The sullenness they had suffered just now was swept away. Mr. Jiang? Yi Ilyong's heart was full of bitterness. He looked around and saw that all the heroes were submissive. Their eyes were full of confusion. He knew that this young man would definitely be famous around the world in the future. He was no longer someone he could reach. He had worked hard for his whole life, but he had done it so easily. He was only in his teens. Was he going to dominate the underworld of Jiang City from now on? He was very unwilling to accept this. "Do you think that no one can defeat you?" Jiang Xiu heard the voice and looked over curiously. It was Yi Ilyong who spoke. "There's another person. He's the real top mountain in Jiang City." "Oh. Who is it?" Hearing this, the people present also started to discuss. Before they came, they had all heard that Lin Junbei had returned. The underworld overlord of Jiang City for more than 10 years. Lin. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the sound of propellers rotating in the sky rang out. It was easy to tell that it was a plane, a helicopter. Everyone looked up. In the distant sky, a plane was approaching. The cabin door of the plane was open. A person was sitting there with his legs dangling in the air. He looked down and scanned the crowd. "It's him." Yi Ilyong would never forget this man. He said that he would come back. He really came back. His face was unprecedentedly solemn. Many of the heroes present also recognized him. They all exclaimed in surprise. "He's back." The helicopter was slowly descending. Jiang Xiu was very curious. What kind of man could make everyone present so nervous? He couldn't help but ask, "Who is he?" Yi Ilyong said word by word, "Lin Junbei." Hearing this name, the crowd was in an uproar. Many of the younger people had never seen this person before, but this name was like thunder to their ears. Lin Junbei is indeed worthy of his name. His entrance is too arrogant. The helicopter was constantly descending. Lin Junbei's eyes were unusually bright, flashing with excitement. "I'm back. It's been 13 years. A total of 13 years. 13 years ago, in this place, he lost everything. 13 years later, in this place, he wanted to take back everything that he had lost. Tang Zhinshan, Yi Ilyong. Today, none of you can think about living. Jiang City, I, Lin Junbei, am back. The return of the king was more exciting than dominating Jiang City. Lin Zhenbei saw a young man standing in the middle of the field. The people present were faintly crowding around him and treating him as their leader. He sneered in his heart. After leaving for 13 years, had Jiang City fallen to the point where a kid could act like a tyrant? Wait. This figure. When Lin Zhenbei saw Jiang Xiu's face clearly, his eyes widened. It's him. Chapter 67. That day, after Lin Zhenbei escaped from Tang Jinshan's military compound, he had nightmares for 7 consecutive days. The boss in his nightmares was the young man in front of him now. He thought he would never meet him again in his life, but he did not expect to meet him again in the East Continent. Everyone saw Lin Zhenbei's confident face suddenly change. It was as if he had seen a ghost. He turned pale all of a sudden. No one knew what was going on. Lin Zhenbei suddenly shouted, his voice louder than the propellers of a plane, "Run!" He jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on, entered the cabin, and closed the door. Why did he run away? Everyone present was confused. It seemed that he ran away after seeing him. Could it be? Tang Wenchong had heard from Ah Dong that Lin Zhenbei was scared off by Jiang Xiu that day. In order to avoid the problem of losing his arm, Tang Jinshan did not elaborate. In addition, there were 2 other gurus present, so Tang Wenchong had some doubts. Now it seemed that it was true. When Lin Zhenbei saw Jiang Xiu, he was like a mouse seeing a cat. Jiang Xiu thought to himself, isn't this just a coincidence? Lin Zhenbei's name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember who it was. Only when he saw Lin Zhenbei did he remember that this person was the one who wanted to kill Tang Jinshan. You want to run away? A cruel sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. According to the temperament Jiang Xiu had shown before, he would kill all his enemies. But the problem was that the helicopter was flying in the sky. Suddenly, Jiang Xiu moved. He rushed in the direction where the helicopter was flying. What is he going to do? Everyone present was confused. This is... What they saw next left everyone dumbfounded. Wind riding technique. The divine pattern on Jiang Xiu's arm suddenly lit up, and his divine power burst out. The golden light sand flowed and formed a talisman. He took a step forward and stepped on the void. He rose out of thin air as if there was an invisible staircase in the air for him to step on. With another step, he was more than 10 meters in the air, flying with the wind. Oh my God! He was flying. F***CK. The horror had only just begun. Jiang Xiu, who was flying in the air, stepped on the air and headed straight for the helicopter. This time, it was truly horrifying. Dumbfounded. Dumbfounded. In the helicopter, Lin Zhenbei's face was terrifyingly gloomy. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead. Why did this brat come to the East Continent? Could it be that he was interested in Rivertown? With this brat around, it would be difficult to dominate Rivertown. Bastard! Where did this kid come from? At the same time, he rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he discovered it in time. If he had gotten off the plane and met him again, he might have died here. Master Bei, look! The people on the side screamed as if they had seen a ghost and pointed outside the window. Lin Zhenbei followed his line of sight and was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. He saw that Jiang Xiu was actually flying through the air. What the F***CK? This didn't make sense. How could a person fly in the sky? That's impossible? Lin Zhenbei lost his voice and screamed. At this moment, Jiang Xiu's eyes had turned pitch black. His body was bursting with divine power, constantly resisting the pressure of the air currents. He twisted his body and lifted his leg. No one can escape from under my eyes. Boom! With a loud bang, Jiang Xiu heavily kicked the tail of the fuselage. The fuselage shook violently, and the tail was dented on the spot. The entire tail of the plane was bent at a 90-degree angle. The power of this attack was so strong that it was as if a fighter plane was hit by a missile in the sky. It instantly lost its balance and fell to the ground. F***CK. What the F*CK. All kinds of vulgarities were spat out. It was too F*King terrifying. There was no one else like this. Everyone present was completely dumbfounded. Oh my God. At this moment, everyone's worldview was greatly impacted. The most miserable person was Tang Tao. He had worked hard and climbed up from the mountainside with great difficulty. He rushed into the heavenly Taoist temple angrily. He was furious. If I don't cripple you today, I'll change my surname to Jiang. But in the end, he saw this scene. He was scared to death. Was this still revenge? The sound of the plane breaking down was like a dying beast wailing. It fell to the ground. With a loud bang, the plane fell into the forest and exploded. For a moment, flames soared into the sky. The formidable Lin Junbei died in a plane crash? Danian hit me. Chu Qianqing couldn't believe it. If Zhang Xiu appeared out of nowhere and shocked everyone, he could barely imagine it. But at this moment, he felt that it must be a dream. Slap. Danian gave him a hard slap and asked, "Does it hurt?" "It hurts." This was real. His good brother, who grew up with him, turned out to be such a top expert. He was rich. At this moment, Yi Ilyang was completely dumbfounded. Zhang Xiu had exceeded his imagination time and time again. This brat. What realm is he at? Elder Lin said weakly, "Flying in the air only exists in legends. I didn't expect it to really exist. Legend has it that only immortals who ascended to immortality have such an ability. I don't know. It's already beyond my knowledge." Yi Ilyang was shocked. I didn't expect him to be so strong. The only obstacle to Zhang Xiu dominating Jiang City, Lin Junbei, had been defeated. Now, no one could stop him. From now on, he would be the leader of the underworld of Jiang City. All sorts of emotions welled up in his heart. At this moment, Zhang Xiu's god power was almost used up. The wind riding technique was a very low-grade technique. In Tianwu continent, even a 10-year-old kid could use it. However, this was a celestial technique and Zhang Xiu had a god body. The attributes of a god and a celestial technique weren't compatible and his god power was quickly used up. He had no choice. When a Protoss reached an age, flying was an instinct and they didn't need to learn flying techniques. This was why flying techniques didn't exist in this world. So, he descended from the sky. First, he stepped on a towering tree in the mountains to dissipate most of his strength. Then, he leaped lightly and jumped forward again, landing next to the plane after the explosion. The air was filled with the smell of smoke. The flames on the ground were still burning. The plane had exploded into pieces and the ground was charred black. A body was crawling on the ground with difficulty. It was Lin Junbei. Many times, when one survived a plane crash, it had nothing to do with his survival ability. It could only be said that his luck was much better than others. You were seen by this sovereign. Do you still think you can escape? The air in the forest changed shape from the heat. He looked at Zhang Xiu with difficulty. At this moment, due to the power of his brain concussion, the sky and earth were spinning. He could only see Zhang Xiu's blurry figure standing there like a demon. Save me. Zhang Xiu said, "Why should this sovereign save you?" Lin Junbei said, "You have to save me. If I die, no one will know the secret of the Dao soldier." Lin Junbei wanted to fight for the Dao soldier and even collected the heavenly Dao's god statue. He was so determined because he knew the secret of the Dao soldier gathering Bodhisattva opening the door. Lin Junbei believed that Zhang Xiu's real goal was also here. Lin Junbei said, "You guys, risked your lives to fight for the Dao soldier. You won, but you didn't see the Bodhisattva opening the door. Don't you find it strange?" Zhang Xiu laughed coldly. If it was someone else, they would definitely be threatened by Lin Junbei and save him. However, he threatened the wrong person. He already knew that the so-called Bodhisattva was the god behind the heavenly Tao. That day, he was almost swallowed by him. This time, he came here to take down Jiang City's underground supreme. More importantly, He wanted to find the god behind the heavenly Tao. If he swallowed him, he would definitely be able to awaken the divine pattern and enter the next mystic. Save me. I can't hold on much longer. Zhang Xiu looked at him mockingly. You are a martial artist and your cultivation isn't low. You should be able to protect your heart meridians. Unfortunately, if you don't stop the bleeding, your blood will slowly dry up. According to the speed of your bleeding, you should be able to hold on for half a minute. Lin Zhenbei shouted in shock. No. Save me. I know the secret of the Tao soldier. If I die, the secret of the Tao soldier will be buried underground. His voice got softer and softer, and his breath got weaker. Finally, his neck went soft and he stopped breathing. Noisy. Zhang Xiu kicked over and sent Lin Zhenbei flying. Lin Zhenbei, who was already at his last breath, was completely dead. Since this was the Tao ground of the heavenly Tao and the origin of all the power of the divine Tao, the god behind the heavenly Tao wouldn't give up on this place. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao sect wouldn't be able to flourish after it disappeared. To him, the power of the divine Tao's faith should still be very important. Zhang Xiu was confident that he would be able to find him. Chapter 68. When the heroes arrived, they saw Zhang Xiu standing with his hands behind his back. He was emotionless. Lin Zhenbei, the only person who could stop him from becoming the number one in Jiang district, was already dead. At this point, Zhang Xiu was the overlord of Jiang City. His gaze swept across the scene. Every ambitious and ruthless person in Jiang City was shocked. As long as they were in the territory of Jiang City, Zhang Xiu was unavoidable. They either had to leave Jiang City like Yi Ilyang did more than 10 years ago, or they had to submit to him. Tang Wenchong said excitedly, Mr. Jiang has the Qianwu superpower. The Tang family is indebted to you. From today onwards, Mr. Jiang will be the overlord of Jiang City. If you have any orders, we will not hesitate. Daily Eye echoed loudly, Mr. Jiang will be the overlord of Jiang City. Mr. Jiang. Mr. Jiang. Mr. Jiang. The heroes of the underworld all stepped forward to express their stance. Zhang Xiu's strength was just too strong. If he had killed Master Zhang and the people present didn't pay attention to him, then he had defeated Lin Jinan and killed Uncle Fu. Moreover, the way he killed Lin Zhenbei was even more shocking. It was as if he was a god. If such a person could unify the underground forces of Rivertown, no one would have anything to say. There was no end to fighting and fame, but there was only one life. Who would dare to go against him? Yi Ilyang had never expected that after 13 years, his ending would still be the same. He would either have to withdraw from Jiang district or bow down to Tang Zhenshan. However, 13 years ago he was still young. Tang Zhenshan, who had dominated Jiang district, was already old. He could afford to waste time. However, Zhang Xiu in front of him was much younger than him. He stepped forward and cupped his hands. Mr. Jiang. The heroes of the underworld were all prideful. They would not say that they respected Mr. Jiang, nor would they have such an attitude. Calling him Mr. Jiang was the greatest form of respect. Zhang Xiu's childhood friends were thrilled. Their childhood friend had become the number one in Jiang City's underworld. It was like a dream. Zhang Xiu has become a Tao soldier of River City? Chu Qianqing laughed at himself in his heart. With Zhang Xiu's strength, he didn't need to rely on anyone else's peer. He was a super big peer by himself. Unbelievable. Within the Heavenly Tao sect, every city had a Tao soldier. Back then, when the Heavenly Tao sect was flourishing, the Tao soldiers were somewhat similar to the divine envoys. Their status was completely mythical, and they were above the local officials. It could be said that they were extremely respected. Mr. Jiang, please return to the Heaven Tao Temple to receive the Tao Soldier Token. An ambitious and ruthless person reminded. After returning to the Tian Tao Temple, he entered the main hall. The Heaven Taoist Temple was managed by a temple master. He was quite old and dressed as a Taoist. Zhang Xiu had checked him and found that he was just an ordinary old man. He was not even good at martial arts, but his body was very strong. He was considered a temple attendant of the Heavenly Tao Temple. He had taken in a disciple who was only 10 years old. Usually, there aren't many incense offerings here, so we rely on this one day. The temple attendant took out a talisman. This is the Tao Soldier Token. After 10 years, please return this token to Mr. Jiang. The temple attendant did not know what the token was for. He just followed his master's instructions and passed it down from generation to generation. He would also instruct his disciple to do the same, and his disciple would also instruct his disciple to do the same. Of course, the Tao Soldier Token had been lost before, but it would miraculously return to the Heavenly Tao Temple. Zhang Xiu held the Tao Soldier Token in his hand. It was a token that was similar to the mask of a god. When the Heavenly Tao sect was flourishing, it should have been used as a keepsake. However, there was indeed a talisman written on the Tao Soldier Token. It was an omnipotent talisman, and an extremely low-level one. Haha! He could not help but laugh. The statue of the main god of the Heavenly Tao sect was right in front of him. As long as he burned this talisman, the god behind the Heavenly Tao sect would appear. However, the god behind the Heavenly Tao sect was quite frightened last time, and he did not know if he would have the courage to appear again. However, even if he did not appear, Zhang Xiu had many ways to make him appear. Unless he was so frightened that he did not even want his belief in the divine path. Mr. Jiang. Boss Zhong's voice came from outside the hall. Zhang Xiu turned around and looked. The underlings beside Boss Zhong had caught 2 people. They were Bao Lingyun and Pei Shuai. At this time, the 2 of them were trembling with fear. They would never have thought that the person they had beaten up when they were young would be so powerful now. Not only was he omnipotent, but he also killed people like flies. He had killed many people with just one move. Now, he was the most powerful person in the underground world of Jiang City. Mr. Jiang, spare us, spare us. At this time, they did not have half of the spirit they had when they were flaunting their wealth in front of Zhang Xiu. Humph! Zhang Xiu snorted coldly. Boss Zhong, who was standing on the side, felt numb all over. These 2 were his underlings, and he was really afraid that they would be implicated by these 2 brats. Go and apologize to Chu Qianqing, Danian, Xiaomin, and Chen Shui. These 2 had offended Zhang Xiu before, but Zhang Xiu did not have a deep impression of them. The ones who really had a grudge against them were his childhood friends. It was most appropriate to let them deal with these 2. It would also let them hold their heads high and not cross paths with him in the past. After that, he turned around and threw the Taoist soldier token into the incense burner. With a bang, the flame inside burned fiercely. Mr. Jiang. The temple attendant was shocked. Zhang Xiu had burned the Taoist soldier token. But when he thought about it, it was made of metal and should not be damaged. You can leave too. The temple attendant nodded and walked out with his disciple. Creak. On the way, he closed the 4-meter-high wooden door. You can run away, but you can't hide from the temple. Zhang Xiu could not help but smile. How unforgettable. Maybe he thought that he did not need to worry too much in his own territory. In terms of whether it was easier for Zhang Xiu to deal with such a small deity or a mortal martial arts master, Zhang Xiu was more willing to deal with such a small deity. Saying that he was a small deity was too flattering. He was just a cultivator who borrowed the power of faith. He raised his head slightly and looked at the huge statue. He saw that the statue was shining slightly, and the image of the old immortal appeared. Zhang Xiu had already jumped out. Let's see where you can escape to this time. The old immortal was shocked. Why are you here? With a whoosh, Zhang Xiu pointed his sword finger at the glabella of the statue. His sword finger moved quickly, and a god-suppressing talisman was drawn. His body floated to the ground. You. The old immortal struggled with all his might, but he was trapped on the statue and couldn't get away no matter how hard he tried. Let go of this deity, let go of this deity. Zhang Xiu smiled faintly, and his dark eyes slowly melted. Tell me, are you a deity or am I a deity? If you're also a deity, deities are too cheap. What do you want? The old immortal was shocked and angry. Zhang Xiu said, "It's very simple. I'll eat you. Although your cultivation is not very good, you're still a spiritual body. After eating you, this deity's cultivation will be greatly improved." The old immortal was trembling with fear. Don't eat me. He had cultivated for so many years, but he had never heard of anyone who could directly swallow a spiritual body. But Zhang Xiu really had such strength. It seemed that only the ancient Protoss had such an ability. Humph! All of a sudden, Zhang Xiu opened his mouth wide, and the strong light gathered in his mouth. The old immortal on the statue screamed in horror, and his whole body was distorted. In the end, he was swallowed by Zhang Xiu in one gulp. A mere spiritual body dared to call itself a deity. The powerful energy entered his body, and Zhang Xiu's mind shook. The divine power he had used was instantly replenished, and the blood in his body popped. His bloodline factor jumped again, about to awaken. This was also within Zhang Xiu's expectations. Boom! The blood in his body seemed to explode, and the Protoss factor awakened once again. On Zhang Xiu's arm, another divine pattern appeared. The Protoss's power once again increased by a large amount. He looked at the divine pattern on his arm, but he still couldn't figure it out. Just as Zhang Xiu was about to leave, he felt that the spiritual body he had swallowed hadn't been completely absorbed. A portion of the energy gathered and didn't dissipate, like a divine light. Under Zhang Xiu's control, the divine light slowly appeared on the surface. This divine light was different from the spiritual body. It should be in existence outside of the spiritual body. This is a divine light approved by the heavens and earth. Its power isn't weak. How could that little spiritual body have a divine light approved by the heavens and earth? This is a bit strange. Zhang Xiu began to chant, and slowly, he began to merge with the divine light approved by the heavens and earth. This divine light is... Could it be the light of the divine position? Chapter 69. The God position was to use the identity of a god to do things that the heavens and earth needed them to do. In other words, the god behind the Heaven Path sect had the responsibility of the heavens and earth. In the end, it was eaten by Zhang Xiu. Not only that, but Zhang Xiu didn't know what the god light was and used a godly technique to take it for himself. This meant that Zhang Xiu also took the god position of the god behind the Heaven Path sect. This was a bit troublesome. It was said that gods suppressed a region and protected it. Zhang Xiu didn't know what the god behind the Heaven Path sect wanted to do or what his responsibility was. If there was a mistake, there would be a huge disaster. However, Zhang Xiu had even more reason to believe that the origin of this deity behind the Heavenly Tao sect should be related to the Heavenly Tao sect from several hundred years ago. At that time, the Heavenly Tao sect should have saved many people and could be regarded as a reward. In Aunt Xiang's home, Chu Qianqing and the others were bragging about Zhang Xiu to Aunt Xiang. Each one was more excited than the other. Even the quiet Chen Shui couldn't hold back her excitement. Aunt Xiang was stunned when she heard this. After a while, she asked, "Are you talking about minor repairs?" "It's Zhang Xiu." Seeing Xiang Sao's dumbfounded expression, the people present all smiled kindly. They still didn't dare to believe it. Minor repairs, and he stole a Dao weapon? Right. Aunt Xiang said, "How is that possible? You bastards must be messing with me." However, what happened next made Aunt Xiang believe it. Bao Lingyun and Pei Shui came to apologize to Chu Qianqing. The two of them had always been rude to Aunt Xiang, so they were very respectful. They even lowered their heads and apologized to Chu Qianqing and the others. "Dunyan, what do you say?" Dunyan muttered to himself. He and Chu Qianqing weren't gangsters, so they weren't that ruthless. Their minds were filled with law. It's been so many years. No matter what, we grew up together. Let's just forget about it. Chu Qianqing said, "All right then. They won't have good days in the future anyways." Little Min and Chen Shui didn't have any objections. Scram! You are not allowed to stay in the eastern state anymore. Bao Lingyun and Pei Shuai nodded helplessly. Now that the entire underground of Rivertown was under the control of Jiang Xiu, everyone knew that they had offended Jiang Xiu. Who would dare to use them? Even if they didn't leave Rivertown, they wouldn't be able to survive. Thank you. At least Chu Qianqing and the others did not make things difficult for them, nor did they break their limbs. Boss Zhong, where's Mr. Jiang? Boss Zhong said, Mr. Jiang has returned to Jiang City. There's something urgent. Xiang's sister-in-law nodded. She thought that Jiang Xiu had returned to Jiang City to win the hearts of the people. In reality, Jiang Xiu was afraid to explain himself to Xiang's sister-in-law, so he ran away. He had lived a carefree life for more than 3,000 years, and his disciples had always listened to him. He was not used to being controlled and taught a lesson. Wasn't there an old saying that heroes were afraid to meet their old neighbors? Xiang's sister-in-law, Mr. Jiang, told me that if you have any problems in the future, you can come to me. Even if the sky falls, I, Boss Zhong, will do it for you. Xiang's sister-in-law nodded. She had raised Jiang Xiu single-handedly. Now that he had grown up and made a name for himself, she would not be polite. However, she didn't have anything that she needed Boss Zhong to do. The only thing she needed was her son. However, Jiang Xiu would not treat Chu Qianqing badly. As expected, Boss Zhong said, Chu Qianqing, Danian, are you willing to follow me? I have a lot of businesses that need people to take care of. The income will definitely satisfy you. Bao Lingyun and Pei Shuai had already made a fortune by following them, not to mention their relationship with Jiang Xiu. However, Mr. Jiang told me to let you do the right thing and not touch anything else. We are willing. Jiang City, Tang family, Ancestral Hall. Tang Jinshan's face was gloomy. Originally, he was in a good mood when he heard that Jiang Xiu had killed Lin Jinbei and shocked everyone. Jiang Xiu's promotion was the consolidation of the Tang family's hegemony. Because Jiang Xiu did not have his own strength and family, everything was still under the control of the Tang family. More importantly, Tang Jinshan was very optimistic about Jiang Xiu. He believed that Jiang City would not be Jiang Xiu's limit. Therefore, Jiang City naturally needed someone to take care of it. Of course, this person was the Tang family, who had followed him all the way. However, all the good news was blown away by the news that Tang Tao had angered Jiang Xiu and was taught a lesson by Jiang Xiu. Old master, please give me a chance. Give me another chance. Tang Tao knelt on the ground. Many elders of the Tang family were present. You don't know how much Mr. Jiang has done for the Tang family. You offended him like this and put the Tang family in a difficult position. If all the disciples of the Tang family treated the friends of the Tang family like you, how could the Tang family survive? Tang Jinshan's face was gloomy. Serve him according to the family rules. No one knew how terrible the family rules were, but everyone knew that Tang Tao's body was carried out of the backyard, cremated, and scattered in the river in front of the Tang family's ancestral house. This was the Tang family's explanation to Jiang Xiu. Abandon the rook to save the king. The next morning, Jiang Xiu came to school as usual. However, he was late for spiritual cultivation again. This time, there weren't many people who were late. He only entered the classroom during the third period. Last night, Jiang Xiu had been studying the light of godhood, but he hadn't been able to figure it out. As soon as he sat down, Yi Bing's note passed by 2 male students and 3 female students thousands of miles away before it reached Jiang Xiu's hands. Jiang Xiu opened it and read, Bastard Jiang Xiu, you're dragging the class down again. It was just one sentence, but it took so much effort. Jiang Xiu suddenly stood up and said, Teacher, someone passed me a note. The language teacher stopped immediately. He frowned and walked over angrily. Give it to me. At this moment, Yi Bing's pretty face turned green. Bastard, you actually told the teacher. If you have the guts, come out and fight me one-on-one. You actually used such a dirty trick. What should I do now? What's written on it? The teacher took a look and couldn't help but want to laugh. However, he felt that it was inappropriate. Zhang Xiu, who wrote this for you? Zhang Xiu's finger pointed firmly at Yi Bing. Yi Bing's pretty face immediately turned crimson. Hua, the whole class was in an uproar. Yi Bing was the school's campus belle. Usually, if the male students could talk to her, they would be happy for a week. She actually wrote a note for Zhang Xiu. A student couldn't help but ask curiously, "Teacher, what's written on the note?" The language teacher said, "Meddlesome. Yi Bing, come to the teacher's office after class." Now it was lively. No one was in the mood to listen to the rest of the class. All kinds of rumors were flying. Could it be that Yi Bing wrote a love letter to Zhang Xiu? Little sister Yi Bing really wanted to die. The resentment in her eyes when she looked at Zhang Xiu became even stronger. Although she was always scolded by her mother at home, this was the first time she was called to the teacher's office for a scolding. Her phoenix eyes were full of power as she fiercely said, "Zhang Xiu, just you wait. I won't rest until you die." After class, all the male students in the class swarmed towards Zhang Xiu. "Zhang Xiu, what did Campus Belle Yi write for you? Is it a love letter?" Zhang Xiu's face was calm and indifferent. A person who was disqualified from being a servant by this sovereign, even if she wrote a love letter to this sovereign wouldn't read it. Seeing Yi Bing following behind the language teacher with her tail between her legs, Zhang Xiu felt an indescribable sense of pleasure. She actually dared to scold this sovereign, overestimating herself. Spiritual cultivation's vengeful heart was just that strong. Before one wave subsided, another wave arose. After class, Zhang Xiu received a phone call. When he saw the caller ID, he didn't want to pick up the phone call. However, he still picked it up. This matter had to be faced in the end. "Hello, why are you looking for this sovereign?" Yi Bing, such a heavyweight campus belle, writing a love letter to a male student was simply explosive news. The news spread quickly and Cheng Ling-su naturally heard it as well. "Do you still remember what day it is this Saturday?" 3,000 years had already passed, how could Zhang Xiu remember? "What day is it?" Cheng Ling-su felt a burst of fire in her chest. However, after thinking for a bit, she felt relieved. Since they were definitely going to separate, why should she care about whether he cared about her or not? "It's my birthday. At that time, I will hold a birthday party to relax and relieve the pressure of studying in the 3rd year of high school. At that time, I will invite some friends. My mom said that she wanted me to invite you as well." Zhang Xiu's eyes moved. "It's Cheng Ling-su's birthday. Doesn't that mean that she will also be coming back? 3,000 years. We haven't seen each other for a whole 3,000 years. Are you still doing well? Alright, this sovereign will definitely be there." Chapter 70. As the best middle school in Jiangqing and one of the few famous schools in the entire Jiangnan province, the learning atmosphere in Jiangqing No. 2 High School was naturally excellent. The spring breeze in April was blowing and the willow trees were hanging low. There was only a little more than a month left before the college entrance examination in June. The students were all working hard to complete the final sprint of their 10-year studies. However, there was still a group of people who were high above others. They were either talented or had good family backgrounds. There was no need to worry. They were the core members of the student union. Yi Wanchen was enjoying the hard work of others. He took a sip of tea and enjoyed the feeling of superiority. Ouyang Qian said, "Young Master Yi, I heard that you were 3rd in the city and 5th in the province in the mock exam." "Amazing." Yi Wanchen smiled faintly, not knowing whether to agree or disagree. Lin Shu interrupted, "That's right. Young Master Yi didn't give it his all. If you perform well in the college entrance exam, you will definitely be the top scorer." The few people present looked at Yi Wanchen with even more admiration. Yi Wanchen was indeed a popular figure in the school. He had a good family background and was handsome. His academic performance was also a mess. What was even more infuriating was that they did not see how Yi Wanchen studied. He was completely a genius. "Alright, how did that Zhang Xiu do?" Yi Wanchen smiled contemptuously. "Do I need to care about him? He's just a small character. He's not qualified to be my opponent. Of course he's not qualified. He's just a pile of mud that can't be helped. I heard that he didn't even take the mock exam. His grades are 0. Everyone laughed. A few people present shook their heads helplessly, looking very disdainful. I heard that Su invited him to her birthday party. Why? Everyone was puzzled. I heard Su say that it was Auntie's idea. Everyone then remembered that Sun Xiaohong had met Zhang Xiu at Baiden's party. At that time, Zhang Xiu was with Tang Wencheng. In Zhongqing, no one could ignore the Tang family. Zhang Xiu has been in the limelight recently. I just heard that Yi Bing was caught by the teacher for writing a love letter to him. Yi Wenchen snorted coldly and said with disdain, "Does he think that everything will be fine just because he's Tang Wencheng? In the end, you're just a frog at the bottom of a well. That's all you can see." His hands were in his pockets. He was wearing a light blue woolen sweater and black casual pants. His strict school uniform made him look like a noble. He snickered in his heart. Little did he know that Tang Zhenshan was old and did not have many years left to live. After Tang Zhenshan's death, the Tang family's little connection with the military would be gone. The Tang family would definitely decline day by day. At that time, Tang Wencheng would be nothing. It was laughable that Zhang Xiu thought that he had hooked up with some big shot. In less than 10 years, this young master will be able to surpass Tang Wencheng, and in less than 20 years, I will definitely surpass the Tang family. As for Zhang Xiu, he didn't care about him at all. Why is everyone giving Su presents? That day, Yi Bing was called to the teacher's office. No one knew what was said, but after she came out, Yi Bing really turned into ice. She had a cold expression on her face. When she had something to say to Zhang Xiu, she would use Lu Xiaoyun as a mouthpiece. She would not talk to him directly even if they were close by. It was as if there was a barrier between the two of them. Zhang Xiu was happy to be idle. He spent more time on cultivation and studying the light of godhood. The weekend arrived in the blink of an eye. The birthday party was held at Chang Lingsu's house. When Zhang Xiu arrived, the person who opened the door was a maid in her 50s from the Cheng family. Her name was Mother Wu. Although they lived in the same city, Zhang Xiu had only been here a few times. Every time he came, she was the one who called Zhang Xiu over. He walked in unhurriedly. The lawn in the villa was decorated with birthday decorations. Happy birthday balloons floated in the air. The few people from the class reunion were basically all here. Ouyang Qian, Li Dan, Yi Wenchen, and Lin Shu. "You're here." Cheng Lingsu's voice was indifferent. Her smile was more like that of a salesperson in a shopping mall. Zhang Xiu also responded indifferently. However, he still said gracefully, "Happy birthday." Then, Cheng Lingsu frowned slightly. The classmates beside them couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh. Don't tell me he didn't even prepare a birthday present for the birthday banquet? Didn't you see that he came empty-handed? He probably didn't have the money to buy it. I thought he would bring a few bags of fruit. After all, he has a fruit stall at home. Zhang Xiu didn't look embarrassed at all. He didn't come here to celebrate her birthday. Sun Xiaohong didn't ask him to come here to celebrate Chang Lingsu's birthday either. "Come in." After waiting for a while, Chang Lingsu said indifferently. She couldn't help but feel a little strange. In the past, every time she celebrated her birthday, Zhang Xiu would prepare a birthday present for her. Although it was not presentable, she could see that he was very attentive. This year, not only did he not remember her birthday, but he even invited her to the birthday party without a birthday present. Although it was impossible for them to be together, Zhang Xiu's change still made her very uncomfortable. After Zhang Xiu came in, his eyes wandered around the villa. However, he didn't see the person he wanted to see. Cheng Lingsu's voice came. "Are you looking for my sister?" Zhang Xiu's calm heart was like a stone thrown into the lake. With a thump, his heart suddenly jumped. He didn't answer. Cheng Lingsu said, "My sister won't come back, and my father is still abroad. So, only my mother and I held this birthday party. She always didn't like to explain to others, especially Jiang Xiu. Even she didn't know why she explained so much to Jiang Xiu. He was just an insignificant person. Sun Xiaohong sat in the main seat. When she saw Jiang Xiu, she nodded slightly as a greeting. Her eyes were full of contempt and disgust. Of course, the birthday party was like a party. Soon they had fun. Seeing her daughter happy, Sun Xiaohong's face also showed a rare smile. Her daughter was 17 years old. She would go to college next year. Like her elder daughter, she would leave her side and have her own life. Thinking of this, she felt that her younger daughter was very pitiful. Her unscrupulous father had set up a marriage contract with a fruit stall owner. It was really hard to imagine what her daughter's life would be like after marrying such a person. She would never allow such a thing to happen. She only heard her say, "Qian Qian, I heard that your family has contracted a resort." Ouyang Qian said proudly, "Yes, that resort's grade is not high enough. My father invested more than 50 million in the decoration and design. The grade is completely different. The annual income is estimated to be close to 100 million. Sun Xiaohong said, "The project is not small." If the female boss of the Chang clan said that the project was not small, it must be amazing. Now that the tourism industry is booming, it is very promising to set up a resort. Ouyang Qian said, "The publicity has to keep up." Sun Xiaohong nodded with a smile. The overall plan of the Ouyang family was very perfect. The future was promising. "Xiaodan, I heard that your family's jewelry store is going to open a third branch in the provincial capital?" Li Dan said. They invited a French designer to come up with a new series. Not only in the provincial capital, the flagship store in Shanghai also opened a few days ago. The turnover on the first day was more than 5 million. Sun Xiaohong said, "Everyone's life is better. The luxury market will definitely be bigger and bigger." "Xiao Chen, I heard that your father is going to be promoted?" Yi Wenchen pushed up his glasses and said, "He will be promoted to the deputy mayor of Jiang City. He will be in charge of land and construction. As for the documents, it will be done in a day or two." Sun Xiaohong was shocked. "Deputy mayor? Isn't that the mayor? Is he skipping a grade?" Yi Wenchen said, "Yes, he skipped a grade." My father was also very surprised. It can be considered a joyous occasion. But my father said that with great power comes great responsibility. Sun Xiaohong nodded. Her classmates commented one by one. Their eyes fell on Jiang Xiu. The latter did not move but sneered in his heart. "You must be crying in your heart. Look at Su Su's classmates. Which one of them does not have a strong family background and outstanding talents? If they support each other, this batch of children will definitely be dragons and phoenixes among men. Then look at yourself. Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling are shameless enough to not cancel the engagement. Are you worthy of Su Su? All right, Auntie, have you heard about Mr. Jiang? I heard from my father that he will be in charge of the underground forces in Jiang City in the future." Sun Xiaohong smiled and said, "How can I not know about such a big thing? Can your Cheng clan group still survive in Jiang City? But this Mr. Jiang is very mysterious. Many powerful people want to meet him, but it is difficult." Chapter 71. Recently, the upper echelons of Jiangqing City were all talking about this Mr. Jiang. Everyone in the circle of rich people was talking about him. Yi Wenchen said, "This Mr. Jiang is too amazing outside. He's like a god. My dad said that even Tang Jinshan and Yi Ilyang are obedient to him." Everyone knew the status of Tang Jinshan and Yi Ilyang in Jiangqing City. They were not small hooligans. They were super big shots in Jiangqing City. They were first-class big shots. In terms of financial power, even the city secretary of Jiangqing City did not dare to provoke them. They could directly call Gu Shu in Jiangnan province. If they were not qualified, how could they call him? But even such a person was under Mr. Jiang. This Mr. Jiang was really amazing. A big shot like Mr. Jiang. I don't know when we will be able to reach him." The young boys and girls present had expectant looks in their eyes. Although they could not reach him, they yearned for it. They naturally worshipped such a big shot. Sun Xiaohong said, "You will always have this opportunity. When your family's business grows a little bigger, Mr. Jiang will definitely meet you and you will be within reach. But some people, I'm afraid they will only be able to hear this name for their entire lives." Her gaze swept over Zhang Xiu again. She saw that he was still calm and unhurried. Seeing Zhang Xiu's shameless look, the anger in Sun Xiaohong's stomach rose. His skin was really thick. "Do you want me to point at your nose and scold you? Minor repairs. Is your family's fruit stall business good?" Zhang Xiu said, "It shouldn't be bad." "How much is not bad? How much is the turnover in a day? 100, 200, or 300? The few people present showed disdain on their faces. Zhang Xiu said, "I don't know the specifics." Zhang Xiu knew that this woman had always harbored evil intentions. She often gave their family a hard time. Her face was full of disdain. She did not restrain it at all. "Minor repairs. It's not that Auntie wants to scold you, but your parents work from dawn to dusk to sell fruits. They are risking their lives and their bodies. They want you to go to a good university so that you can stand out in the future. Even if you can't reach little Chen's level, you should at least find a job where you can sit in an office. You don't have to do these heavy work like your parents. But why are you so bad at earning money? I heard that in this mock exam, you ranked last in the whole school?" The few people present looked at Zhang Xiu with a gloating expression. "In your situation, you might not even be able to get into a specialized college, let alone an undergraduate degree. What's wrong with you? Are you not working hard, or is your intelligence not keeping up?" "Great." He actually said that the dignified spiritual cultivation had a IQ problem. Zhang Xiu's expression darkened. He said bluntly, "You don't have to worry about this sovereign's family matters. Whether this sovereign's grades are good or bad has nothing to do with you." "You?" Sun Xiaohong almost fainted from anger. "Good, very good. You really are promising. I want to see what kind of university you can get into," Zhang Xiu said. "If this sovereign wanted to get into the Imperial University or the University of Hua Nation, it would be a piece of cake. You said it yourself. If you can't get in, then don't even think about ending things with Su. Mom." Cheng Ling-su shouted nervously. She was afraid that her mother would tell her about her relationship with Zhang Xiu. But at this moment, the doorbell rang. Someone came. Weren't all those who should be here already here? Eldest Miss. Mother Wu opened the door and shouted in surprise. Then, a voice came, "Wow, there are so many shoes. There must be a lot of guests at home. I had to rush back." The voice was sweet and gentle, making people feel infinitely comfortable. Then, a beautiful figure walked over from the front hall. The woman was tall and about 1.7 meters. Her face was very similar to Cheng Ling-su's, but she was prettier than Cheng Ling-su. Her eyes were more gentle and charming. "Wow, big sister!" Cheng Ling-su shouted excitedly. Then she dashed toward the young woman. The two women hugged each other excitedly. "Didn't you say that you weren't coming back?" Cheng Ling-su pouted and acted coquettishly. At this moment, Zhang Xiu slowly turned his head. When he heard this voice, his heart could no longer remain calm. 3,000 years. He hadn't seen her for a whole 3,000 years. The woman was Cheng Ling-su's older sister. Her name was Cheng Ling-ran. "It's second Miss birthday. How could I not come back? Then there's the gift. I've already prepared it for you. Are you coveting your sister's gift or your sister's gift?" Cheng Ling-ran couldn't help but scratch Cheng Ling-su's cute nose. If there was one person in the Cheng family who treated Zhang Xiu sincerely, it would be Cheng Ling-ran. Because she was older than Zhang Xiu, Cheng Ling-ran had taken care of Zhang Xiu since they were young. Zhang Xiu was also very attached to her. However, after his father's accident, the two of them almost stopped contacting each other. He could still bump into Cheng Ling-su at school, but Cheng Ling-ran didn't even have the chance to meet. After Zhang Yi and Lin Yueling passed away, Cheng Ling-ran didn't know why. Perhaps it was guilt or sympathy. However, she was the only one in the Cheng family who felt guilt and sympathy. She appeared in Zhang Xiu's life and took care of him meticulously. Zhang Xiu almost killed her several times, but she still didn't leave him. Zhang Xiu suddenly realized that he loved his older sister, Chang Ling-ran, and not his younger sister, Chang Ling-su. "Mom." Rang ran. Cheng Ling-ran threw herself into her mother's arms like a spoiled child. She even rubbed her face against her mother's face that was covered with thick foundation. "Sister Rang Ran." The Cheng family didn't know that their ancestors had burned an effigy to give birth to such a pair of peerless pearls. Young men like Yi Wenchen and Lin Shu had long been stunned by Cheng Lingran's voice and smile. Minor repairs. When Cheng Ling-ran saw Zhang Xiu, her eyes were filled with surprise. She didn't expect Zhang Xiu to be here. Zhang Xiu said, "Sister." When he was young, Zhang Xiu didn't have any siblings. At that time, the two families were still close. Zhang Xiu had always called Cheng Ling-ran sister. He had never changed the way he addressed her. Now, he was calling her sister as well. Yi Wenchen and the others laughed coldly. They looked at Zhang Xiu with displeasure. "How dare you call her sister?" He was probably stunned by Sister Rangran's beauty. What a toad. In her previous life, Zhang Xiu and Cheng Ling-ran had an ill-fated relationship because of the family's misfortune. It could be said that Cheng Ling-ran had helped the Cheng family to atone for Cheng Ling-su's sins. Therefore, no matter how overboard Zhang Xiu was, and no matter what Zhang Xiu did to Cheng Ling-ran wouldn't complain or resist. She would only silently accept it. It could be said that Zhang Xiu's parents' deaths were exchanged for Cheng Ling-ran. However, in this life, that didn't happen. Cheng Ling-ran would never accept Zhang Xiu. The most painful thing for Zhang Xiu was that he didn't know whether Cheng Ling-ran loved him or not. Seeing Cheng Ling-ran's warm gaze and her calm heart, Zhang Xiu felt a stab of pain in his heart. No matter how high and mighty a person was, he wouldn't be afraid of God. If he wasn't ruthless, he would definitely be pitiful. Continue our relationship? Maybe it's just a luxury. Zhang Xiu knew that it was impossible. Unless it was like in his previous life, when his parents' tragedy happened. However, would he let his parents die just to get a woman for himself? That was absolutely impossible. In that case, all he could do was to bury this feeling deep in his heart. As long as she was living well, it was fine. Minor repairs. Cheng Ling-ran realized that Zhang Xiu was very tall when he stood up. He was more than half a head taller than her. She remembered that the last time she saw him, Zhang Xiu was shorter than her by half a head. Moreover, although Zhang Xiu's appearance could be recognized at a glance, when this little brother next door grew up, his face was as resolute as marble, and his eyes were deep. In those flashing eyes, there was a bone-piercing sorrow leaping. She couldn't help but feel pity for him. "You've grown taller and more handsome." However, before she could finish speaking, Chang Ling-su covered her mouth. If she continued speaking, she would be exposed. "Sister, come here." Chang Ling-su hurriedly pulled Cheng Ling-ran into the boudoir and locked the door tightly. Then, she told her sister about her relationship with Zhang Xiu. Her classmates didn't know about it, and she asked her sister to keep it a secret. Of course, Chang Ling-ran agreed to this dear sister of hers. She made an okay gesture before she was let out. However, when Cheng Ling-ran came out again, she found that Zhang Xiu was no longer in his seat. Cheng Ling-su asked, "Where is he?" "He said he had something to do and left." "It's best that he left. He's an eyesore here." Sun Xiaohong's anger had not subsided yet. Cheng Lingran's face revealed a strange expression. Her eyes looked in the direction of the door, and a hint of worry flashed across her face. Chapter 72. After leaving the Cheng family's villa, Jiang Xiu walked on the street. The memories of Chang Lingran that had been sealed for a long time seemed to awaken in his mind. In the end, they all turned into endless regret and pain. Pain was unforgettable. However, in this life, even if Jiang Xiu wanted to feel pain, he might not be able to. His parents were still alive, and he had great ambitions. The divine path was his final destination. His heart was bound. He, Jiang Xiu, was the sect master of the Sky Motion sect. He was a genius who had cut through all obstacles and was invincible. No matter how strong his opponents were, he would cut through all their schemes with his sword. He was naturally fearless, but he was afraid of bringing trouble to Cheng Ling Ran and hurting her, so he didn't even dare to pursue her. In what name would he pursue her? Would he pursue the down-and-out Jiang Xiu? How could she like him? The powerful Mr. Jiang was also worried that the people around her would pressure her and force her to do things that would hurt herself. I betrayed you once because I was heartless. If I betrayed you twice, how could I have the face to stand in this world again? A light drizzle began to fall from the sky. He looked up slightly and saw the drizzle falling continuously. The water droplets fell on his face. Mr. Jiang, several leaders of Jiang City have come to Jiang City. They want to see you. After Jiang Xiu unified the underground of Jiang City, he was bound to unify or reorganize the terrain, business, and resources of all places. Tang Jinshan, Yi Liang, Boss Zhong, and Wan Zuolin were all shrewd people. No one was willing to give up their assets and strength. After so many days, Jiang Xiu didn't make any moves. They couldn't wait any longer. Come to my villa. With just a few words from Mr. Jiang, luxury cars poured out in front of the villa like rain. One after another, famous big shots alighted from the cars. They were in too much of a hurry. When they arrived, Jiang Xiu himself hadn't arrived yet. They could only wait outside the villa in a line that stretched for a mile. They were all holding umbrellas in their hands. It was a magnificent sight. A taxi wanted to drive into the villa area, but it was stopped. Cars are not allowed to drive, move to the side. The taxi driver had never seen such a scene before, so he didn't dare to say no. He quickly pulled the car to the side and secretly guessed which big shot was coming. The two girls in the car were unhappy. These two were Ouyang Qian and Li Dan, who had just celebrated Cheng Lingsu's birthday party. Considering that they had classes tomorrow, the party ended a little early. How can you stop here? I still need more than 10 minutes to walk home. The driver said, Ladies, I don't want any money for this ride. Please walk a few steps on your own. Ouyang Qian and Li Dan were helpless when they heard that the driver didn't want money anymore. It's raining outside. We can't leave. The person who stopped the car said, Then wait by the side of the road. They should be arriving soon. Ouyang Qian and Li Dan poked their heads out of the car window in the rain to take a look. They were not scared to death. On both sides of the road, there were men in black holding umbrellas. There were luxurious cars along the way, and they could not see the end of the road. Wow, this big brother, who exactly is blocking the way? The girl asked curiously. The man glanced at the two girls, then spat out 3 words in a profound manner. Jiang, Xian, Sheng. The two girls looked at each other and couldn't hide the excitement in their eyes. Mr. Jiang, are you talking about that person? Ouyang Qian cried out involuntarily. Other than that person, who else could have such extravagance? All the important people in Jiang City are here. Okay, we'll wait. The two girls were very happy. They didn't expect to have the chance to see Mr. Jiang. Just as they were talking, a man in ordinary clothes walked past on foot. The rain fell on his body and wet his clothes. The canvas shoes on his feet were also soaked. His footsteps were steady and powerful as he stepped into the rain. Mr. Jiang. Jiang Xiu walked back. It took him more than 3 hours, and these people waited for more than 3 hours. One of the sharp-eyed people quickly ran over and held an umbrella for him. Hearing the sound, the two girls in the car quickly looked over. The street lights were dim, and the rain was misty. They only saw a tall figure. As he walked, The people on both sides bowed to him and respectfully called out Mr. Jiang. He was really arrogant and majestic, and it made people feel inexplicably excited. He's Mr. Jiang. Seeing such a person, the two girls couldn't help but be a little dazed. They thought that one day, they could hold his arm and walk on this path with him, sharing his glory. They would be 99% satisfied in this life. In the next second, Jiang Xiu turned slightly, revealing half of his handsome face. The two girls looked as if they had been electrocuted. Their eyes widened. How is that possible? When they wanted to take a closer look, Jiang Xiu had already turned around. I must have seen wrongly. The sky is so dark. There must be someone. It can't be that damn fruit stall owner. They watched Mr. Jiang leave. That night, it was windy and rainy in Zhongqing. Everyone was extremely nervous and dignified. Only the dim street lights shone on them. Come in. Except for the person in charge, no one else was qualified to enter the villa, including their personal bodyguards. Even old Lin, who was by Yi Ilyong's side, couldn't follow. Old Master Tang. Jiang Xiu only greeted Tang Jinshan. He ignored everyone else, including Yi Ilyong. This made Yi Ilyong feel a little uneasy. He had offended Mr. Jiang, and this was going to be troublesome. After entering the villa, they sat at the long table in the living room according to seniority. Tang Jinshan was on the left, and Yi Ilyong was on the right. There were more than 10 people sitting there. In the past, they didn't sit or stand, but now they were all well behaved. They didn't dare to smoke or light cigars for fear of offending Mr. Jiang. Mr. Jiang, about business. Tang Jinshan spoke. He had the most seniority and was the closest to Jiang Xiu. I'm not interested in business. Jiang Xiu said, what happened in the past will happen in the future. Everyone present was very surprised when they heard this. However, the joy in their eyes could no longer be concealed. They all breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that Jiang Xiu would ask for too much. Under Jiang Xiu's tyrannical power, he would give them whatever he wanted. You couldn't even resist if he wanted your life, let alone money. Zhongqing is not small. In addition, there are nearly 10 million people in the surrounding area. You have a lot of resources in your hands, but there is too much vicious competition. You should reorganize. Everyone present nodded when they heard this. Let's discuss this matter. If you can't settle it, then look for me. He was actually playing a game of inaction. It was very clever. Old Master Tang said, there's one more thing. Mr. Jiang, it has been some time since you unified the underground of Zhongqing. According to the rules, let Mr. Jiang deal with the family affairs within 7 days. However, you must not go to the provincial capital to pay your respects to Wang Shuahai after 7 days. Pay respects to him. Tang Jinshan said, yes, Wang Shuahai is in charge of Hangzhou. His power covers many surrounding cities, including more than half of Jiangnan province. He can be considered the leader of our Jiangnan province. A newly appointed person must pay his respects to him. He has to pay his respects to him during festivals. This is etiquette. Jiang Xiu smiled coldly. Etiquette? What's the background of this Wang Shuahai? Tang Jinshan said, Wang Shuahai's ancestor is a warlord, Wang Sueki. He conquered more than half of Jiangnan and has an army of more than 100,000 people. He left behind an astonishing family background and has countless followers. Although 100 years have passed and times have changed, the family has a deep heritage. They are one of the top families in Jiangnan province. When people talk about Jiangnan, they must mention the Wang family. When people talk about the Wang family, they must mention Wang Shuahai. The Wang family has been operating in Jiangnan for generations. On the first day Gu Shu came to Jiangnan province, he didn't go to his office. Instead, he went to the Wang family. Jiang Xiu said, local aristocrats. Tang Jinshan said, yes, that's what it means. They have a family of martial arts, but there is no lack of children with great wisdom. The Wang family has stood in Jiangnan for hundreds of years. Many people have wanted to replace them, but no one has succeeded. Jiangnan's economy has soared, but many people have coveted this fat piece of meat, but no one has ever succeeded. Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, North Korea, and other forces have all been driven away by him. It can be said that they are unbreakable. When Wang Shuahai was mentioned, Tang Jinshan's face showed admiration. Mr. Jiang, we still have to pay respects to Wang Shuahai. Jiang Xiu said, what if we don't pay respects? Everyone present looked at each other. They had never heard of a person in Jiangnan who didn't pay respects to the Wang family. Lin Zhenbei was powerful in Jiangqing back then, but when he went to the Wang family, he wasn't even qualified to enter through the main door. He went through the side door and was sent back after shouting, Mr. Wang, outside the door. In fact, everyone had the same idea in their hearts. Jiang Xiu's weight was up to Wang Shuahai to weigh. If Mr. Jiang doesn't pay respects to the Wang family, it will be a humiliation to the Wang family. I'm afraid it will cause trouble. In Tang Jinshan's opinion, the internal affairs of Jiangqing needed to be integrated. How could they have the energy to deal with the Wang family? But he didn't know that Jiang Xiu's ambition was not here at all. Trouble. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. I still have to take the college entrance exam next month. Chapter 73. Jiang Xiu's words made all the leaders present look at each other. The great Mr. Jiang still had to worry about the college entrance examination? What was the purpose of the college entrance examination? Wasn't it to find a promising job in the future? But now, the entire underground of Jiangqing was his. Coupled with his godlike strength, not to mention the distant ones, there were many talented students in the enterprises under Yi Liang, Tang Jinshan, Capital University, and Hua Nation University. They were all working for them. Did he still need to take the college entrance examination? What a joke. This was clearly a blatant provocation to the Wang family and Wang Shuahai. However, the Wang family was not easy to deal with. They were afraid that Mr. Jiang was going to get into big trouble. Time flew, and the 7-day deadline passed quickly. The underground of Jiangqing was secretly speechless. Jiang Xiu really did not go to Wang Shuahai's dock. In their hearts, they guessed that he might drag it out for a day or two to make himself look better. Everyone waited for another 3 days, but Jiang Xiu still did not go to Hangzhou. On the 4th day, he still did not go. Half a month later, everyone had to believe Jiang Xiu's words that he would not go to Wang Shuahai's dock. However, Mr. Jiang definitely did not study for the college entrance examination obediently. Instead, he cultivated at home without any moral integrity. The joy that cultivation brought him was like a primary school student playing pesticide on his mobile phone. He was completely addicted to it. Even if the progress was so slow that it made people's hair stand on end, he still enjoyed it. The feeling of running one full cycle was also very good. When he arrived at school that day, the atmosphere in the school was more tense than usual. It turned out that the exam area was arranged that day. This was arranged by the computer. It would try its best to prevent people who knew each other from sitting in the same examination room to avoid cheating. One had to know that in the past years, cheating in the college entrance examination had been a frequent occurrence. Perhaps it was fate, but Jiang Xiu was actually arranged to sit in the same classroom as Yi Bing, which was rare. The examination room was in Grade 1, Class 3 of No. 1 Middle School. Jiang Xiu. Hearing someone calling him, Jiang Xiu turned around and saw Cheng Lingsu and the others. Ouyang Qian and Li Dan were also among them. The moment Jiang Xiu turned around, he looked very similar to the figure under the misty street lamp. However, they didn't think that Jiang Xiu would be the famous Mr. Jiang Luoxia in Jiang City. What is it? Cheng Lingsu asked. Which examination hall? No. 1 Middle School, Grade 1, Class 3. Cheng Lingsu said, We're not in the same exam hall. I'm in my own school. On the side, Ouyang Qian said, Then today might be the last time we see each other. She felt as if she had gotten rid of an annoying fly, and her face was filled with joy. Ha, young Master Yi, he seems to be in the same exam room as you. Yi Wenchen pushed up his glasses and said, "That's true. To be able to be in the same exam room as the future provincial top scorer, Zhang Xiu, this is your fortune. You can brag to others for the rest of your life." A sense of superiority came over him. He looked at Zhang Xiu with eyes filled with disdain. Zhang Xiu smiled faintly. "I think that your chances of becoming the college entrance exam top scorer are 0. Whether or not you can get into a university is also a problem." Yi Wenchen's expression changed. "What?" After saying this, Zhang Xiu turned around and left. Lin Shu said angrily, "Is he an idiot? Doesn't he know that young Master Yi has been in the top 3 of the province for 7 consecutive mock exams in the past month? He actually said that young Master Yi can't get into a university. After the college entrance exam ends, he won't even be able to get into a specialist course, and will still need to go to college. Then he will know what reality is." Ouyang Qian said fiercely. Chang Lingsu also shook her head helplessly. She was extremely disappointed with Zhang Xiu. After all, they had known each other for a while. Actually, she didn't want Zhang Xiu to be unlucky. However, this person was really hopeless. He didn't work hard and hoped that others would be as unlucky as him. How could she marry him? Absolutely not. Even if she was beaten to death, she wouldn't. Perhaps, it was also because she was present and he wanted to save face. A hateful person must have a pitiful side. On the day of the college entrance exam, all the noise around the exam room was ordered to stop by the Zhongqing government. In order to smooth the traffic and avoid traffic jams, even some vehicles were restricted. The first exam was a language exam. "Hey!" Before approaching the exam room, Yi Bing called out to Zhang Xiu. This was the first time that Yi Bing directly spoke to Zhang Xiu since their conflict. "What's the matter?" Seeing Zhang Xiu's arrogant look, Yi Bing's anger that had been suppressed with great difficulty came back a little. However, she still said, "Do your best. All the best." As a classmate, she felt that it was necessary to cheer for Zhang Xiu. Although his results were very bad and definitely wouldn't be good, she still hoped that he would be able to perform to his best. "Don't worry, I will definitely do better than you. I'm so angry. I had good intentions, but in the end, I got scolded." Yi Bing stomped her feet and entered the exam room angrily. The invigilators looked very fierce. A male and a female entered the exam room and glared at each other like beasts. As invigilators, they had done their homework. They had investigated each student's results beforehand. They immediately locked onto Zhang Xiu, a student who didn't do well and was ready to cheat. Phones, books, school bags, all of them are placed outside. Only pens and stationery are allowed to enter the exam room. Next was the handing out of the exam papers. This process was very smooth. When the bell rang, the exam officially began. "Do you see that examinee? His name is Zhang Xiu. He is the student with the worst results in Erzhong. I heard that the school's conduct is also very bad. He is most likely to cheat." The male invigilator secretly said to his fellow invigilator, "Okay, I will keep an eye on him." The female invigilator said. She leisurely strolled down and walked to Zhang Xiu's side without a trace. She glanced at Zhang Xiu's drawer from the corner of her eyes and her eyes immediately widened. This brat was too arrogant. She saw that Zhang Xiu's drawer was filled with exam preparation materials. This cheating was too inhumane. Did he directly ignore the invigilator? "This student, take out the books in the drawer." Hearing this, everyone in the exam room looked over. Someone was caught cheating? Oh my God, this is just the beginning. Yi Wenchen also turned his head to take a look. He was amused. It was Zhang Xiu. He scolded, "Idiot. He actually cheated in the exam room. How stupid." Yi Bing saw that it was Zhang Xiu and furrowed her beautiful brows. This bastard. If he was caught cheating, he would get 0 marks. This was language. It accounted for a large portion of the total score. "What books?" Zhang Xiu asked in surprise. "You are still pretending. Where are the books?" The teacher stretched her hand into Zhang Xiu's drawer and wanted to take the books out. But when her hand went in, it was empty. She lowered her head and looked inside. It was also empty. But she clearly saw it just now. She was stunned. She thought to herself, could it be that I saw wrongly? Ah, no, nothing. You can continue. She felt that there was no reason for her to see wrongly. Could it be that the weather was too hot and her eyes were playing tricks on her? Zhang Xiu said, Teacher, I hope that you will not disturb my exam. To us, the college entrance exam is a test that determines our fate. The examinees present were also affected. They all looked at her with disdain. The female teacher said embarrassedly, Sorry everyone. I saw wrongly. Everyone, please continue. The examinees then retracted their gazes and continued with the exam. The female teacher was puzzled. How could her eyes be playing tricks on her? She slowly walked back to the podium. But when she turned around, she saw a scene that made her even more stunned. Zhang Xiu directly took a book and placed it on the desk to copy it. Damn, I have never seen such an arrogant person. This time, I caught him red-handed. Let's see what else you have to say this time. The female teacher shouted and rushed over. She rushed in front of Zhang Xiu in a few steps in her high heels. Then, she grabbed Zhang Xiu's book. But she did not grab the book. Instead, she grabbed Zhang Xiu's hand. The female teacher was stunned. Where is the book? Why did it disappear into thin air? She clearly saw the book just now. Why did it suddenly disappear? The examinees looked over again and saw the invigilator grabbing Zhang Xiu's hand tightly. Many of the examinees muttered. It said that examinees are under a lot of pressure. I didn't expect the teacher to be under so much pressure as well. This teacher must be crazy. I think it's possible. Zhang Xiu said, Teacher, it's not good for you to grab my hand like this. The female teacher shook her head and said, That's impossible. I clearly saw you. You were holding a book and copying it. It suddenly disappeared. Where is the book? This teacher is really crazy. The female teacher started to scratch her own hair. Impossible, absolutely impossible. She clearly saw that the hair that cost 50 yuan was quickly scratched into a chicken coop. Chapter 74. She clearly saw him holding the book, but when she reached out to grab it, it suddenly disappeared. Anyone would be stunned, but she was unwilling to accept it. She thought that it must be Zhang Xiu's doing. She had to catch him. Sure enough, not long after, she saw Zhang Xiu take out the book again. After confirming that she was definitely awake, she quietly stood behind Zhang Xiu and looked at him carefully. Zhang Xiu was copying from a Chinese textbook, Grade 12 Volume 1. What else do you have to say this time? She moved closer, and her shadow shone on Zhang Xiu's exam paper. It was enough for him to discover her. Then she looked at him very calmly. Her meaning was obvious. You cheated and you were caught. You were completely caught. Zhang Xiu looked up at her and smiled faintly, then continued to flip through the pages to find the answer. For someone who had not held a Chinese textbook for more than 3,000 years, the Chinese language college entrance examination was a bit difficult. It was so difficult that even if he had a book in hand, he still had to look for it carefully. The female invigilator was angry. This was too arrogant. He dared to be so brazen in front of her. Enough, she said angrily. Give me the book. Give me the book immediately. The examinees and the other invigilator looked over. Did something happen? The other invigilator ran over and asked. He's copying from the Chinese textbook. She did not try to grab the book this time. She did not manage to grab it after trying twice. She wanted to let the others see if she was crazy or if this student was really cheating. However, she realized that everyone was looking at her with a strange expression. It was as if they were looking at a lunatic. Didn't you guys see? He's copying from the book. A student said, Teacher, he doesn't have a book in his hand. She was stunned again. How could this be? How could this be? The desk was empty except for the exam papers. If he wanted to cheat, he should have written a cheat sheet. Who would be so stupid as to take out an entire book to copy? That's right. He could have just copied from someone else. The other invigilator took out her cell phone and contacted the school. Is this the academic affairs office? Please send someone here. Teacher Zhang is under too much pressure from being an invigilator and has gone insane. I would like to request for a replacement so as to not affect the examinees. The female teacher was still grabbing her hair and mumbling, "Impossible, impossible." He was on the verge of breaking down. However, Zhang Xiu's face slowly turned green. He realized that he had done something stupid. Why did he have to find the answer himself? Why didn't he just copy someone else's answer? He secretly rejoiced that no one knew about this. Otherwise, spiritual cultivation would lose face. Profound light shadow borrowing. Who should I copy from? They quickly locked on to two people. One was Yi Wanchen, who was known as the top scholar, and the other was Yi Bing. Yi Bing's language grades had always been at the top of the class. He first took a look at Yi Wanchen's paper. The first few questions were all multiple-choice questions. The feeling of scanning through them was exhilarating. He then checked with Yi Bing. There were two different choices, but the rest were all the same. In order to determine who was wrong, he also looked at the others. Most of their answers were the same as Yi Wanchen's, so it should be Yi Bing's fault. He began to copy the fill-in-the-blank questions. Schwa schwa schwa. The feeling of writing at full speed was too exhilarating. On the roof of the classroom, a figure appeared. His face was clear and lifelike. His eyes were locked on Yi Wanchen, who was sitting in the front row. At this moment, he was writing an essay. His inspiration was like a gushing spring, and his pen was like a god. If it wasn't for the word limit, he felt that he could write a 3-million-word essay. When the figure saw Yi Wanchen's situation, he stroked his beard in satisfaction and said to himself, with a literary fate, the light of the top scholar. You are the top scholar of the gold subject. This god will cast the light of godhood on you. You will definitely grow a bit more. Just as he was about to cast his light on Yi Wanchen, a voice suddenly sounded. Who are you? When the figure heard the voice, he was so scared that he trembled. All his attention was on Yi Wanchen. Even a god would be scared when a voice came out of nowhere. However, he didn't think that the voice was talking to him. How could a mortal see him with their naked eyes? However, he still subconsciously looked towards the source of the voice. Zhang Xiu was staring at him in shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief. It doesn't make sense. He can't see me. Therefore, his body floated to the left, then to the right. However, he realized that Zhang Xiu's eyes were following him. This time, he couldn't help but be shocked. Zhang Xiu could see him. You can see me? Zhang Xiu thought to himself. You are so brazenly floating in front of me. If I can't see you, then I must be blind. What demon are you? How dare you be so impudent in front of me? That person was sure that Zhang Xiu could see him. He couldn't help but smile. Interesting. A mere mortal can actually see me. I am Li Mi. I am here to select this year's top scholar. This person spoke with a strong ancient accent and was very cultured. Zhang Xiu had seen him trying to cast a light of godhood on Yi Wanchen. Yi Wanchen's strength was enough to become the provincial college entrance examination's top scorer. There was no need for him to personally choose him. If Zhang Xiu's guess was correct, this person wanted to cast his light of godhood on Yi Wanchen. Once Yi Wanchen became the top scorer, he would then take it back. That way, his cultivation would increase. You want to use him to become the top scholar to strengthen your own light, right? Li Mi's expression changed. Who exactly are you? Zhang Xiu didn't answer the question and said, This is a good spiritual cultivation method. However, you are really unlucky today to meet me. As he spoke, his pupils suddenly opened, and his eyes became pitch black. He suddenly opened his mouth, and the intense light gathered in his mouth and disappeared. Li Mi turned pale with fright. His entire young spirit was sucked in uncontrollably. He shouted, "No, no." No matter how times changed, this was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Li Mi robbed Yi Wanchen, and Jiang Xiu robbed Li Mi. No. Li Mi screamed in horror. When Jiang Xiu awakened the power of 2 mysterious and 2 divine patterns, he might have been able to escape by using the God-devouring technique. But now that he had awakened the power of 4 mysterious and 4 divine patterns, Li Mi's young spirit couldn't resist the suction force. He was sucked into his mouth like a gas and swallowed clean. After the spiritual body was swallowed by him, the power was quickly absorbed by him. Pop, pop, pop. The Protoss's bloodline was about to break through immediately. After the spiritual body was absorbed, there was another godhood light left. Jiang Xiu didn't hold back. Just like last time, he used the secret method to take the godhood light for himself. This process was very smooth, and the godhood light was quickly occupied by him. But when he took the godhood light for himself, he found that there was another godhood light in his body, and the godhood light of the god behind the heavenly Tao was gone. It was obvious that it was replaced by this godhood light. In order to confirm the situation, Jiang Xiu used the secret method again. This time, the godhood light of the heavenly Tao sect blocked Li Mi's godhood light. From this, it was certain that a person couldn't add 2 godhood lights at the same time. And these 2 godhood lights were obviously different. Not only was there a difference in power, but it also seemed that their attributes were completely different. As for the specific use of the godhood light, Jiang Xiu still hadn't figured it out. With a boom, the Protoss's bloodline exploded once again. Jiang Xiu hurriedly controlled it so that it wouldn't cause too much of a commotion. The god power in his body once again rose by a large amount. After awakening the 5 profound mysteries, a 5th divine imprint appeared on Jiang Xiu's arm. This divine imprint was slightly longer than the others, and was also slightly more complex. However, it was still impossible to tell what kind of diagram it was. Students, there's still half an hour before the exam. Everyone, hurry up. Students who have already finished, check again. Yi Wanchen stood up and said, "Teacher, please hand in your paper." Student, there's still half an hour. Why don't you check again? Yi Wanchen pushed up his glasses and said, "No need. I definitely won't get a single question wrong. The only thing that will deduct marks is the essay." After saying this, he handed in his paper and walked out. As expected of the top scholar seedling, "You're just the same with strength." "Who is he? You don't even know him?" "He's Yi Wanchen." "What? He's Yi Wanchen?" Under the admiring gazes of the examinees, Yi Wanchen put one hand in his pocket and coolly walked out of the examination room. Heh. Jiang Xiu's eyes swept over Yi Wanchen's paper and his mouth started to mutter. Yi Wanchen's paper looked as if someone was scribbling on it with a pen. "Didn't you, Yi Wanchen, look down on students with poor grades? You even tried in vain to humiliate this sovereign. Little did you know that this sovereign's incantation would cause you to suffer a crushing defeat." Chapter 75. He then turned to look at Yi Bing. Yi Bing was frowning and looking very nervous. There were a few questions on her test paper that were still missing. Her answers had been changed again and again, so she was probably not sure. Language was Yi Bing's strong point and was also the subject where she could get the most marks. She wanted to use English and language to make up for her lack of mathematics. If she failed in language and was pulled down by mathematics, then her dream of getting into the imperial capital would be shattered. Half an hour passed very quickly. Ding-ling-ling, time was up. Hearing the bell, Yi Bing panicked and hurriedly wrote down her answers. The stern voice of the invigilator sounded in her ears. "Time is up. Put down your pens. If you write another word, it will be considered cheating. Put down your test paper and leave the classroom." Yi Bing rushed out of the classroom with a pale face. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Jiang Xiu shook his head. Wasn't this little brat quite arrogant? Why did she become like this when she didn't do well in the exam? Yi Bing muttered some words, and some of the answers on her test paper changed. When Jiang Xiu walked out of the classroom, he saw Yi Bing running all the way to the shade of a tree. Her shoulders were trembling. She was probably crying because she had controlled the situation. When he walked closer, he saw that she was indeed crying. Jiang Xiu stood beside her for a while and said, "Yi Bing, it's just an exam. Is there a need to be like this?" It would have been better if he didn't say it. After he said it, Yi Bing cried even louder. She cried in despair. Her crying was heart-wrenching. It was as if a little girl's favorite toy was snatched away. Her crying attracted the attention of the surrounding examinees. Everyone was pointing at her and talking about it. Jiang Xiu said, "Let's stop crying. If you continue crying, the police will come. If the police arrest me as a hooligan, how wronged would I be?" Those who didn't know would really think that Jiang Xiu had done something to Yi Bing. Yi Bing's pretty face had 2 lines of sparkling and translucent tears as she softly said, "You're a hooligan." If he wasn't a hooligan, then he would appear in her house out of nowhere and even see her naked. If this wasn't a hooligan, then what was? However, Jiang Xiu said, "Fine, this sovereign is a hooligan. You're not noble and extraordinary either. You're a fairy that walked out of the boundless smoke and clouds. When you stand here, you're like a fairy that descended to the mortal world. None of the female students here can compare to you. Being able to make Fairy Yi call me a hooligan, that's also this sovereign's honor. However, even if this sovereign is a hooligan, this sovereign is also a high-level hooligan." Yi Bing really couldn't stand him. His mouth was full of nonsense. His coaxing was a mess, but her mood was much better. She even wanted to laugh. "Who exactly are you? I've never seen someone as narcissistic as you." Jiang Xiu took out a tissue and handed it over. Yi Bing turned around and wiped her tears. "What's the big deal?" Yi Bing sniffled her cute nose and said, "As a poor student, you will never understand the feelings of an outstanding female student who failed her exams." Fine, in terms of shamelessness, student Yi Bing wasn't lacking. However, these were student Yi Bing's heartfelt words. Our spiritual cultivation is like eating melon seeds and eating a bedbug. This sovereign came to comfort you out of goodwill, but now, I've become the target of your ridicule. This sovereign is really despicable. However, seeing Yi Bing's sad expression, he didn't bicker with her. "How do you know you didn't do well?" Yi Bing said, "I couldn't answer 3 of the multiple choice questions. Here, I got 15 points. Jiang Xiu said, "It's not necessarily wrong. Maybe you got all of them right." She sniffled. She also had this kind of extravagant hope in her heart. "Let's go. Don't think about it. This sovereign will give you a chance today. Treat this sovereign to a meal." When they walked out of the school, the sky suddenly darkened. Xia Yu said it would rain, and the heavy rain poured down. The 2 people rushed into the public phone booth one after the other. The heavy rain poured down. The scenery outside the phone booth instantly became hazy. The glass surrounding the phone booth also became blurry because of the rain. "It's raining so heavily." The sky outside was pitch black. The sound of the rain filled their ears. It was as if the entire world was isolated. Only she and Jiang Xiu were left. In the narrow space, they could clearly feel each other's breathing. Their eyes intertwined, touching each other's hearts. Perhaps it was because a man and a woman were isolated in a small phone booth, or perhaps it was because there were no external disturbances and influences, but everything became different. It gave birth to a kind of ambiguous feeling. Yi Bing said softly, "Am I very annoying?" Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, "You're not bad. You've entered this sovereign's eyes. Your appearance is not bad, and your figure is also very good." When he mentioned her figure, he was a bit of a hooligan. He realized that he had gone a bit overboard. By saying this, wasn't he telling Yi Bing that he had seen her before? His originally comforting words became somewhat teasing. Yi Bing's eyes became a bit more gentle. "You're comforting me," Jiang Xiu said, This sovereign always speaks the truth. Otherwise, Yi Bing's courage seemed to have increased. A pair of watery and tear-stained eyes stared at Zhang Xiu's face and asked, "Otherwise what?" Zhang Xiu gulped and swallowed his saliva like a hooligan. A subconscious voice reminded him that as the head of the Qianqing school, he must not forget his identity. But in the end, he couldn't control himself, otherwise, this sovereign wouldn't have stared at you for so long. Yi Bing's pretty face turned crimson, but she didn't shrink back. Instead, she moved closer. Her seductive fragrance hit Zhang Xiu's face. Her red lips shone with a seductive luster. The two of them moved closer and closer. It was as if they had forgotten everything. It was as if an electric current had struck them. They were shy and dizzy, and sweet, as if they were in a dream. The rain was getting heavier. After a long time, the surrounding scenery began to be vaguely visible, and the sound of the rain gradually became lighter. The light from outside shone in. They finally separated, but their breathing was still rapid. Yi Bing leaned against the side of the phone booth. The soles of her canvas shoes were pressed against it. Her pretty face was red as she lowered her pretty face. Her long and curly eyelashes fluttered lightly. Zhang Xiu leaned against the opposite side of her. "Where are you going to study in university?" "I don't know," Yi Bing said softly. She paused for a while and said, "I'm going to study in the capital." "Oh." Yi Bing looked up at him and said, "Don't misunderstand. I'm just asking casually." "This sovereign knows." Yi Bing said, "So, do you want to study in the capital as well?" Zhang Xiu had wanted to study in the capital in his previous life. Of course, it wasn't a famous school. There were many schools in the capital, including many specialized schools. But his parents were determined not to let him go to the capital. At that time, he wanted to go to the capital because he felt that Chang Lingsu was there. He was afraid that his wife would be snatched away. "This sovereign will think about it." Yi Bing said again, "I'm definitely going to the capital. My parents won't allow me to go anywhere else. If it's not the capital university, then it's the Hua Nation University." The girl was full of confidence. Although Yi Ilyang didn't have that much influence, he could use money to solve problems. As long as his daughter wasn't too far behind, anything was possible. "This sovereign will think about it." Zhang Xiu's answer was still the same. "The rain has stopped. Let's go out." Pushing open the door of the phone booth, the surrounding sounds rushed into their ears like a tidal wave. The sound of cars, voices, and the splashing of water as the wheels rolled over the puddles. The two of them walked side by side to the restaurant in front. Although the rain had stopped, the sky outside was still very dark. It was 11 o'clock in the afternoon. The sky was strangely dark. Zhang Xiu looked up. The sky above the river bank was filled with thick dark clouds. It was very strange. What happened just now was an accident, right? Yi Bing's cheeks were red as she mustered up the courage to speak. "Yes, it was an accident." Hearing this, Yi Bing let out a long sigh of relief. However, she couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment in her heart. A girl's mood was like a rainy summer day, unpredictable. She smiled and seemed to be in a good mood. In her heart, she thought, "This will be the last symbol of my high school career." She turned her pretty face and glanced at Zhang Xiu beside her. "Classmate Zhang Xiu, what do you want to eat for lunch?" Zhang Xiu thought for a moment, then said, "How about some junk food? There's a fast food restaurant in front." The main reason was that he was really hungry. In his heart, this fellow was thinking, "In view of your performance just now, although your skills are rusty and you lack experience, this noble one is still satisfied. I will reluctantly give you a passing grade and restore your qualifications to be a substitute maid. Next, it will depend on your own performance." You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.